Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following episode. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me in the Upside Down is Andrew Meadows.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you this wonderful evening?
Hello.
There's two different things in there for you.
I'm a little toasty. Our air conditioning is on the fritz at the moment.
Ooh.
So I'm wearing some basketball shorts and a light t-shirt, and I'll hope that's good enough. Otherwise,
it's like you're recording in the closet again.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that right now. But a maintenance request in. We'll see what happens. I'll be able to tell if they fix it at some point. I can tell you that right now, because it's quite warm. But that's okay. That's okay. You're fighting through a monsoon over there is what it sounds like. So we may be dealing with technical issues for over the next however many hours this takes, probably 6 or 7 at least, right? I'm just kidding, listeners. Don't click off. I was just joking. But we're here. We're back. It's just the two of us this time. I think we had a pretty good streak there of having a guest on for a bit. But it's just Andrew and myself. We're not talking about a Marvel project. Maybe that's the difference. We're talking about Stranger Things 4. And yes, I know we are very, very late to the party in terms of talking about it. Get over it. We watched it a while ago. I mean, to be fair, we've probably been sitting on it for over a month now, I would say, since we actually watched it. So we'll have to kind of get our memories up to speed when we do get a chance to talk about it, certainly when it comes to spoilers. But it's a fairly memorable show, one we've enjoyed, I think, and it's at least we can say we enjoyed its first 3 seasons without spoiling our reactions for the 4th season. But there's a reason I think that we're going back to it even after a long delay. And that's also just partially because we haven't really done a whole lot. Both of us haven't done a whole lot of the same thing. I mean, I know you've watched a lot of TV on your end. I've been slacking on that front. I don't think either of us have made a trip to the theaters in, I would say, weeks. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
There's movies I want to see. Like, I want to see Nope. I want to see Bullet Train, and maybe we will catch those. I don't know, but we've been busy, especially now for me. I'll just say, like, it's only a few weeks out from my wedding, and you probably recall the joys and stresses of the the weeks leading up to the day of, and Anna is kind of bearing the brunt of most of that, I would say, but it also I get it secondhand, and I get assigned tasks and stuff here and there. So I just I've just been busy, and I will continue to be busy. It's crunch time, basically. Yeah. So anyway, this is what we had on deck, basically. Of, hey, here's a big major pop culture thing that took the internet by storm, took the world by storm when it came out, and we have watched it, and it feels like we've covered other seasons of it. Might as well keep the train going and talk about Stranger Things 4. So that's what we're gonna do, and I'm going to talk about it in the form of a fun fact about it right now, because I think fun facts are fun, and I think our listeners deserve something here. So anyone that has watched Stranger Things 4 will know that it came out in 2 parts as how it was released on Netflix. They did 7 episodes at once, and then like a month later they put out the remaining, I believe, just literally 2 episodes, of which the second episode is just a movie, a 2.5-hour movie, effectively. Right. But when part 1 came out, all 7 episodes, there's a very prominent use of a particular song by Kate Bush called "Running Up That Hill," a deal with God, and it's a song that came out 1985, like a synth pop, new wavy kind of thing, which I think was fairly probably popular at the time. Number 3 on the UK singles chart, number 30 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States. So a solid hit. But Stranger Things breathed new life into this particular song. Running Up That Hill reached the top 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and topped the charts in 8 countries, including the UK for 3 consecutive weeks, Ireland for 7 consecutive weeks, and Australia for 9 non-consecutive weeks.
Jeez.
So it got a big Stranger Things bump, which its usage in the show was a big moment. I think overall we'll talk about that. Certainly, that's something that even having not watched the show and certainly having not watched part one for a while, that's its presence in the show is something that's still sticks in your brain.
Sure.
Even a while later on. So part two had a sort of similar effect, but not quite to the same extent. It featured prominent usage of the Metallica song "Master of Puppets," and it resulted in a resurgence on the Spotify charts. Although it doesn't seem like that necessarily translated into the Billboard or the actual like charts for like radio airplay and stuff like that. But I think Master of Puppets was already a pretty big fucking song in the first place. So it was, I think it was less taking a somewhat obscure song from the 80s and like, really, really giving it new life so much as using a pretty memorable, metal song from the 80s and putting it in a super popular thing. And so it just naturally is just going to be popular. So,
right.
So yeah, that's my fun fact is running up that hill, Master of Puppets, the Stranger Things effect, basically. So if the Duffer Brothers come calling and say, hey, we want to use this song in our season 5 of Stranger Things,
the answer is yes.
I'm just saying, if you are listening and you happen to be in that position, the answer is yes, without hesitation. Especially if you're because presumably it's a song from the 80s, so you're an artist that probably has maybe fallen on hard times or, are just not as popular as perhaps you once were. The answer is yes. You say yes. So yeah, we've got some news to talk about, and then we'll talk about Stranger Things, and we'll talk about what we've been up to. It's been, I don't know, what would you say, week and a half, couple weeks maybe since we last assembled?
I think so. Yeah.
I guess, well, to be fair, we kind of did our San Diego Comic-Con and Miss Marvel coverage in a sort of kooky format where we tried to do it all in one, didn't work out, so we came back, I think, the next night when Andrew was half asleep, and honestly put in a hell of a lot more effort than I expected. So I'm giving you some praise here because it seemed like it was going to be a real low energy kind of moment, and you surpassed, I think, my expectations. I think you did quite well, offering your thoughts on Miss Marvel, a show that I think we all enjoyed. Obviously, that helps. It usually helps when we enjoy a thing. Otherwise, it really is just like, why should I give this thing more energy than the creators put into making it? You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's that sort of vibes when we cover things, but that was not the case with Miss Marvel. But listeners will recall, on the San Diego Comic-Con episode, before we got into the Comic-Con goodies, we talked about a little company called Warner Brothers Discovery.
Oh, yeah.
We had a pretty extensive segment called "What the Fuck is Going On at Warner Brothers Discovery," and we got into a lot of things, talking about the WB Discovery merger, the new business plan, talking about the future of DC, the future of the Flash, what the hell Ezra Miller's been up to. And there was just a lot to unpack there. And when we came back to talk about Miss Marvel, even more stuff had already broken at that point. It had been like, I don't even know, like a day or two. And it was like, well, there's more shit to talk about already. And in the interest of, saving Andrew's, brain power for actually talking about Miss Marvel, we elected to forgo talking about, more news at that point. But here we are now. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited because it's time for What the Fuck is Going On at Warner Brothers Discovery Part 2.
Okay, so this is news that could have been talked about when I was...
Some of it is.
Okay.
This is news that could have been talked about when we did the Miss Marvel episode, and there is also an addition of other things that have since come out in the past couple of weeks. So it's all related to what's going on over at WB Discovery. So some of it's old news, some of it's actually very hot off the presses news, which literally I didn't even get a chance to put into the script because I just saw it about 5 minutes before we started recording. So we got some hot goss to get into, but we'll start with the old news, which will actually bleed right into the brand new news. Variety put out an article titled "Inside the Confusing State of DC From huge Joker 2 Paydays to the search for their Kevin Feige, written by Brent Lang, Adam B. Vary. It was an interesting article, basically being like, they have fucking no clue what they're doing. I think is kind of the bottom line that I took away from it. But basically, this is all following on to this, the Batgirl cancellation, the future of the Flash. Like, what the fuck is happening over there at WB? Like, what are they doing with DC? What's the plan? What's the game plan? So, as it stands, as of the writing of that article, obviously there are movies coming out in the future that were already in production, but things that had not actually gone into production that have the green light. The only project as of now is Joker Folie, Deux, which is the Joker sequel with Joaquin Phoenix coming back with director Todd Phillips, and then also bringing in Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. So the news that came out with this article is Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips are going to be getting $20 million paydays as part of their roles in this.
Whoa!
And Lady Gaga is going to be getting $10 million. So, a woman getting paid less than two men, that all checks out, of course. It's still a fuck ton of money. I'm not going to deny that. But apparently the budget is going to be roughly $150 million because it's going to include complicated musical sequences. So WB Discovery's coming out hot with a Joker sequel that they're throwing almost a couple $100 million at. Now, the first one did make $1 billion. So I think in terms of business decisions, it's not the worst one. It's not the worst one I've ever seen. It's not a Morbius type project. It's not really anything that Sony does at this point. Madam Web. I mean, just, it's none of that, but it is kind of just like, is this going to have the same level of success as the first one? We'll see.
We'll see.
And so the rest of the article was kind of just talking about, obviously, recounting the fact that, like, all right, well, there's a lot of shit. There was a lot of balls in the air, and, like, some of them don't seem to be moving forward, or we don't really have any information on them and haven't had anything on them for years. So Wonder Woman 3 is still kind of up in the air. The Black Superman with Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams involved seemed like it was scrapped, maybe. There's a Zatanna film that was being made with the scripts in the, Static Shock. None of those, like, we don't really know what's going on with those. Black Canary is maybe still going forward, and some of this we did talk about when we talked about it. But basically, the thing that this thing really honed in on, which I found interesting, and it's going to be really interesting because of the news that's come out tonight, actually, is the direction of DC seems to kind of hinge on the idea that, like, we need to find our Kevin Feige. Like, we've got to find our guy that's responsible for overseeing everything, seeing movies, TV, every project, like, DC related in terms of, like, the cinematic format. Like, we need to have the one guy that
have like a continuity dude
that into the future. Yeah, right. Because DC really has not really had that. I mean, they've had people who have kind of been in that sort of way for, like, particular, certain projects. But even when Zack Snyder was, like, kind of in charge of, like, the DC thing, he wasn't actually in charge of DC. He just happened to be making a lot of things, and everything that, like, he, if he cast Wonder Woman and his Batman v Superman movie, they used that casting for the Wonder Woman movie. But, like, the Wonder Woman movie, he might have produced it, but it wasn't, like, hands-on with it. It wasn't a top-down kind of producer role in the same way that a Kevin Feige is. Like, Kevin Feige doesn't direct movies. Kevin Feige plans these movies meticulously with a whole bunch of staff, and producers and whatnot. And that's not really a Zack Snyder thing. It's not even like a Christopher Nolan thing, after the Dark Knight trilogy, like Man of Steel, like Nolan produced, but, like, it's like he didn't really have much involvement with it, beyond that. So some of the contenders that they threw out in this article were Greg Berlanti, who's done a lot of stuff on DC TV, like the CW verse. He's had a lot of involvement with that and some other non-CW projects. But basically, per the article, they think that he hasn't been pursued and he's probably not interested in it anyway. They speculated that a man named Dan Lin could be interested in doing it, but at the time they said he remains committed to his own production company and his ongoing production deal at Universal, but there's more to come on that. Stay tuned. And they thought, okay, well, the guy in charge is Walter Hamada, and like they seem to like this guy. He seems to be actually like kind of okay. Like they're like, this guy's like solid, but apparently the Batgirl thing pissed this guy the fuck off, because basically, he was like, the decision was made without his knowledge, basically, like without his input. They're just like, yeah, we're just going to shelve this film that you greenlit and helped make, and so they basically had to convince him to stay on board with WB at least until Black Adam comes out, and then it's like, all right, well, you can either stay and do your thing, or go off into greener pastures or whatever you want to do.
Join a Marvel project, right?
Yeah, something like that. So it seemed like basically the tone of this was like, they might just stick it out with Walter Hamada and just basically be like, oh yeah, sorry, we probably shouldn't have canceled Batgirl without asking you first, but if you want to like take the reins, then like we can figure this out together. But that apparently is not what is happening, because as of earlier today, it sounds like Dan Lin, the man I mentioned, is apparently now in talks to take control of the film and TV side of DC. So they're seeking a reset of the brand, and so basically the idea is he really would have a Kevin Feige type role, in the sense that like the structure would allow this guy, Dan Lin, to report directly to the WB Discovery CEO. He wouldn't have to go through Warner Brothers Pictures. He wouldn't have to go through HBO Max. He wouldn't have to go through WB TV. He would just... He does everything. One guy, and he's got one guy above him, and that's it. That's, everything kind of runs through those two guys, and that's how it goes. So it doesn't sound like any deal has actually been closed on it, but it seems like it's big enough that trades are picking this up, and maybe this is the direction they go in, and so you say sayonara, Walter Hamada. I guess go find another job. And if you're wondering who this guy is, because I think that's a fair question of who the fuck is Dan Lin. I've never heard of this man. He's an executive turned producer, apparently, who counts hits such as the live-action Aladdin, the Lego Movie, and the It horror movies amongst his credits. So I'm sure there are other recognizable things that he's worked on. I would have to guess. Looks like he worked on The Departed, 10,000 BC. He apparently... Oh, this is interesting. He apparently oversaw the Justice League movie that was to have been directed by George Miller, which basically got as far as, I think, assembling a cast and doing costume tests and stuff, but then never actually got made. So he's got some history with DC, particularly, kind of interesting. He's worked on other franchises. The Sherlock Holmes franchise looks like the Robert Downey Jr. one. So a pretty prolific, it sounds like, producer. He's working on the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series coming to Netflix at some point in the future. So it's some pedigree there, it sounds like. It doesn't sound like he's a complete rookie. It doesn't sound like he's a complete nobody. I think the question mark that I have is like, Kevin Feige was obviously like a comic book first kind of guy. Like he loved that shit growing up, and then he just got a job doing the thing that he loved. And then like, I think that kind of has shown in terms of his impact on the Marvel Studios, in terms of, his impact on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what Dan Lin has to offer. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, if you're going to be like the continuity guy, everybody's asking, hey, can we make this? Can we do that? We can slot it in here. We can slot it in there. If you're the guy, you got to be passionate about it, and you have to have some sort of idea of the trajectory that you want to keep moving towards. And
you got to know your shit. I mean,
you got to know your shit. You have to have some sort of insight. You know what I mean? I think that as long as you're passionate about delivering the stories, I imagine your insight can grow. Like, I'm not opposed to like somebody that maybe just read Batman, or maybe just read Superman, or whatever. You know what I mean? They don't have to know everything about all the characters or anything like that. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for they don't have to be straight up hardcore comic book person, but they should be passionate about the characters that they're portraying on screen, and giving credence to those stories, and representing them faithfully on screen. I think that's real important. So Yeah, I mean, you gotta have somebody that gives a shit. That's the biggest part, That's definitely important.
Yeah, and I know, and I obviously Kevin Feige is still an executive, but
I think limiting the amount of suits that you have to answer to also, I think that'll help tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, especially again, if you have someone in that role who as we've said, does care about these things, is passionate about them, and does give a shit about it. Like that's kind of what you need. I mean, you still need someone with enough business savvy to like figure it out in terms of not just the creative part of it. And I think you have a really good balance with a Kevin Feige type, which is why they're looking for someone and they're describing them as a Kevin Feige. They are Kevin Feige. Like that archetype is kind of rarely found. It's usually clueless executive or comic book nerd who doesn't know how to translate something from the page to screen. You know what I mean? You got to find it somewhere in between. So we'll see if he can thread that needle. If he indeed takes the deal, comes on board. But some hot off the presses news right there that we wouldn't have been able to talk about if we were talking about it on Miss Marvel. We would have had to have part 3 by the time we got here. And we probably still will have a part 3 at some point, but maybe we'll take a break next episode. We'll see. All right. We are going to not take a break from talking about Ezra Miller. We need to talk about Ezra because an interesting article came out from the Hollywood Reporter a couple weeks ago, around the time that, again, we were ready to talk about Miss Marvel, and it was basically, to recap what we talked about, it was basically Ezra is a huge fucking mess. Like, they are a shit show, committing crimes, grooming children, putting,
kidnapping.
I mean, just a fucking absolute nightmare in terms of everything involved of what they themselves are doing, and also just the impact of WB being like, God damn it, what the fuck do we do? So some of the answers have kind of come out in this article, which is titled Warner Brothers Weighing Fate of the Flash as its Ezra Miller problem grows. So apparently, as of a couple weeks ago, and I think the calculus may change based on things that have come out since, basically, the studio was apparently planning for 3 possible scenarios in terms of like how they move forward with the Flash. So number 1 is that Ezra would seek professional help, and if that happened, then basically they would let them do limited press for the Flash, and then they would kind of keep the Flash on schedule as planned, come out in theaters next year, and everything's a-okay. Ezra has atoned for their problematic behaviors, apparently, and that's good enough in WB's eyes that they can roll with the punches at that point. Scenario number 2 is, all right, Ezra Miller doesn't do all that shit. WB can still just throw the film out there, and they'll just bury Ezra Miller in terms of like marketing and publicity and stuff like that. They'll recast the role in future projects and they'll just move along. Hope they'll make whatever money they make, and it'll be that. And then number 3 is Ezra Miller keeps Ezra Millering about, and this forces them to kill the movie entirely. Which they could take a tax write-down on it, apparently, as we've all learned again, so it's not, all is not lost, maybe they'll even save a few dollars, like, oh, we spent $200 million on it, but if we take a tax write-down on it, maybe we'll just magically rematerialize all that money we spent somehow. I don't know how it works, but they basically say in this article, like, I mean, people are like, just throw Grant Gustin in. Like, he's a great Flash. People love this guy as the Flash.
It's true.
Just make him the Flash. And it's like, I mean, it's not a bad point. Take a beloved version. His interpretation, I think, of the character is beloved, even if the CW Flash show is hot garbage at this point.
Right. It's not his
some
fault.
merit to, I think, throwing that out as an option. The reason, apparently, that it's not possible is Ezra plays multiple versions of Barry, is in basically every scene of the movie. So to do that technologically would either require reshooting the entire movie, which obviously you're just spending $200 million again, in which that doesn't make any sense, or you're talking about some weird deepfake technology that looks fucking awful. The whole movie. Like, that's just not... we're not there yet. We're really not there yet. And probably different body types, and none of it makes sense. That doesn't really make sense. It's like you could do that with one character who's in a movie for like 2 minutes, but you can't do it with someone who's in the whole thing. Like, that just doesn't make sense. That would be
Excellent. I would pay good money to see that.
I would like to watch it and see. I would like to know whether that, like the deep fake Grant Gustin. Ezra
What do you think?
Miller
What do you think that costs? What do you think that costs to do that?
Cheaper
think
than
you get it done
the
for
whole movie for sure. I'd say
a quarter,
$30 million bucks.
Okay, yeah,
yeah. Spend a good amount of money on it and polish it as much as you can. There's only so much you could do, I think, in terms of having to do it for every fucking. It probably costs more than that because, like I said, it's not. It's like that's like.
I'm thinking
CG
50.
For like,
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
50.
I think probably at least 50. Yeah, that would be a huge nightmare. My question was going to be like, which would be more horrifying? That final version of the film, the mustacheless Henry Cavill that we got in the Justice League, or the original design of Sonic the Hedgehog. Those are like three cinematic abominations that I would love to see side by side.
That's true. Yeah. Well, we saw Superman. We saw Superman.
We did. We did. We know. We saw. We technically saw what Sonic looked like. They just didn't. Include it in the final product. So we know what those two are. I would love to see what the result of them trying to do that would be, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I say that because August 15th, Ezra Miller put out a statement. And said that. I'll quote what they said. Having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I am committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage in my life. So,
it sounds like a pretty well-written apology at the very least.
Yeah, I think that like there are things that they've done, like like the burglary and like the like the weird like stealing shit from people, like feels like a mental health kind of thing. It's the grooming and the other weird behavior at the farm that they have, like that feels a little bit more like I like that's
just out there shit.
That's kind of going a step beyond like, I'm kind of just being a little bit of a piece of shit right now. Like, nah, like I think you're kind of acting in a predatory way. I'm sure that mental health feeds into that. I'm not disputing that, but like, I don't know that I don't know that a one paragraph apology really quite captures everything. Now, I say all that, and I think that this is good that they're putting this out there, and I sincerely hope that they are getting treatment and that the treatment is helpful of getting them into a better place. I think this was WB holding a gun to their head saying, put this out or like
you'll never get another job ever.
Yeah, like this is it for you, basically, is kind of how it feels like. And I just think that, to me, it kind of just it feels like
you always
now that
ask
this is
the
out
question,
there, WB's like, all right, everything really is good in Flashland. Ezra's taking care of their shit. Like, we're gonna put the Flash out and make millions of dollars. We're good. Everything's great.
Like anytime stuff like this happens, it always reminds me of Kavanaugh. Yeah. It's like you have all these choices and you have a world worth of possibilities. And this is the hill that you continue to stand on. This is the hill that you continue to fight for. This is all that. You know what I mean? And with Flash, it's literally just one movie. You know what I mean? It's $200 million. It's a lot of dough. But you don't have to. You don't have to. You can say, okay, listen, we're just moving on. Go do whatever you want to do. We're going to put this out here. We're not going to give you any publicity. We're just going to put the movie on and consider it a dark chapter. And we're moving past it. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the likelihood of them keeping Ezra on past the release of The Flash is probably pretty unlikely. I think that at this point, it's the same thing, although I don't know if they're actually going to make another one. They're also in Fantastic Beasts in a fairly prominent role, and obviously that's a franchise that's not without its other sets of controversies as well. But like, if they make more of those, what do they do with their character? I don't even know. I didn't watch the third one, so I actually don't know what happened with the other Dumbledore brother, apparently, which is who they're playing. I don't even know with that shit anymore. But like you put a lot of eggs in one basket, and it's a basket that's not a good basket to put eggs in, apparently, as they've learned the hard way.
It's the rotten apple in the barrel, It's just spoiling all the fucking apples.
Yeah, pretty much. So I look. I think if I'm WB, I think that This is step one. It's you have to be committed to like, all right, is this just is this a genuine thing that Ezra is doing, or is this just WB saying put out this fucking press release or your career is over? Like that's what I'm wondering, and I think that we won't really know for the foreseeable future. Now, again, if I'm WB, I'm just cutting bait as soon as I possibly can, and maybe again. Were it not literally for the cancellation of Batgirl, I wouldn't even entertain the thought of canceling the film because it sucks. Like your main character, your lead actor, is a piece of shit, and you got to get around that. Like I don't know. I mean, I guess the closest thing I can think of in terms of like where they had to really recalibrate things is everything with Kevin Spacey, and I don't think that's.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
It's not entirely equivalent, but it's a similar thing where like. Ridley Scott's like, fuck him, fuck Kevin Spacey. I'm getting rid of him. I'm literally reshooting his entire character in my movie, with all the money in the world. And then House of Cards was like, actually, Kevin Spacey died on his way to his home planet, and so now his wife is the president or whatever. So, they really made a very big concerted effort to just write them out of those projects at that point. It's obviously not so easy here. Would that it were so simple is what WB is thinking. If they could just recast and it's a 5-minute scene or it's a sequence that they could scrap, you know what I mean? Like obviously there's this whole set of Amber Heard drama for her role in Aquaman 2, and it's like they could probably cut her entire role or recast her entire role and reshoot it relatively easily if they wanted to. It doesn't sound like they are, but they could do it. This is not a scenario where that's really feasible. So it's all a fucking mess, man. We're yet again spending a lot of time on it, but I'll just say that's the latest. And hopefully Ezra does get treatment to address their issues, and maybe that maybe that's what. Maybe that's all that can be done at this stage right now, and everything else is kind of a wait and see approach. So that's that. But other things of what the fuck is going on at Warner Brothers Discovery. I got one, I guess, sort of a bad thing, I guess, depending on your perspective, and one I think good thing that WB is Discovery. I'll end on a positive note for them. So we got a lot of delays and film release dates shuffling around. At WB. So the big ones are the DC ones that are moving around. So basically Shazam was set to hit theaters this December, just a few days after Avatar 2. And I think perhaps wisely they've decided to bow out of their 2022 release date and push Shazam Fury of the Gods to March 17th of 2023. So steers clear of Black Panther, it steers clear of Avatar. Anything else coming out around the holiday season, I think that's fine because the trailer wasn't very promising, and I think it was going to get swallowed alive by pretty much any other project around it. So I think maybe separating it is a good business decision.
Definitely, probably. For sure.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is moving to December 25th of 2023. It was at the March date that Shazam just moved to, so it's a big delay for that one. Same year, but going from month 3 to month 12 is a pretty significant slide for it. So,
might indicate that they don't have a whole lot for December of next year, huh?
Yeah, I mean, probably. It's put a tentpole DC film that is a follow up to I think a fairly successful first one with a pretty popular lead in Jason Momoa. I think that it could be set up for success there. I think
it's not even a summer blockbuster either, though.
Not even a summer blockbuster, but I think the other Aquaman released pretty late as well. I think it's a similar time frame to the first Aquaman, if I recall correctly, but I could be wrong. But I feel like I remember it coming out towards the end of a year or whatever it came out. I think the only competition that it'll have around that time frame is I think we're supposed to get a Star Wars film around that, because I feel like Disney's whole shtick was like Avatar one Christmas, and then Star Wars the next Christmas, and then
Rogue
Avatar
Squadron
3.
Baby.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to make its date, or at least if it is, you're going to have to get moving on it pretty soon. I think Taika's movie is probably closer to coming out, so I think it's probably actually a pretty decent thing, because I think the likelihood of a Star Wars movie actually making it December 2023 feels like, I don't know. I mean,
we haven't heard or seen anything.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like they're going to have to get their shit, moving pretty quickly for that to happen, especially because it's a Star Wars movie. You know it's going to be effects heavy. Like so I would be surprised if we actually do get something then. So that might be again a good savvy decision to move Aquaman to that date. A couple other things moved around / got new dates. I think most notably, Evil Dead Rise, which was set to be an HBO Max film, has been scheduled for a theatrical release now in April 4th of next year. And that is I don't know if it's technically I think it's kind of its own thing, kind of similar to what the reboot was, Evil Dead. I don't think it's intended to be a direct sequel of any sorts. It's just kind of a similar premise to other things. I think Sam Raimi is maybe producing-ish or something like that. I don't think he really has a whole lot of involvement in it specifically. But, Deadites and whatnot.
Fuck yeah. I had no idea this was a thing coming out.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a straight to HBO Max debut, I think, probably for late this year, and then never actually got a date, and now it's just getting a straight-up theatrical release, which is cool. I'll check that out, presumably, So yeah, I mean that's kind of the long and the short of the delays. I think the thing that just kills me about this is when all this came out, it's like, all right, we'll just fucking moving all this shit around. I guess we'll get Black Adam, and I guess that's it for DC this year. Apparently, and this is also coming from the Hollywood Reporter, the moves that have been made underscore, I'm quoting here, what a financial mess Warner Brothers Discovery is, as the studio only has enough cash to release 2 movies from now to the end of this year.
Yikes.
I don't know how that's possible, but I guess they're fucking bleeding money from the merger, from acquiring AT&T, a couple of years back, like just swimming in debt apparently. And, they're like, we're going to fucking bleed money and lose even more money than we already are if we try to put out even more movies. So it's kind of insane.
There has to be a massive ROI though. I mean, they own an IP or like an ISP anyways. They only have enough money to produce 2 movies?
To I guess, distribute them, I guess. I don't know. It seems insane to me. I understand. I won't claim to understand the financials of that. I know it costs a lot of money to put movies out, I think somebody probably just that can't be accurate reporting. It's from a reliable source. I would say, all right, it's just a rando on Twitter that doesn't understand this shit, but it's Boris Kitt, who is a very reliable writer over at Hollywood Reporter. So I just
we need to get him on the cast. We need to get you on the cast, sir. You need to let us know where you're getting your facts, because that just does not make any sense. It's nuts. But anyways,
well, here's I'm sorry. There's a low budget comedy intended for HBO Max that is also now getting a theatrical release in December called House Party. I don't know anything about it. So there's 3 movies that will be coming to theaters this year.
This is WB?
This is WB, right? Yeah.
And WB owns HBO, right?
Yes, I think so.
And you're like, HBO's still making shit though, right? Like divisions of WB are still doing just fine.
HBO's kind of its own thing, so it's off producing its own shit, which is not getting theatrical releases, obviously. But HBO's kind of its own world and kind of separate and detached from the rest. Apparently,
from the woes of its
film
parent
division, basically. Right? Yeah.
Christ.
This is another quote from the same writer. "They have no money and no clues," says one exasperated producer. So apparently it's a real shit show over at WB Discovery, aka what the fuck's going on over there. That's why we asked the question.
All right. It's a good segment. I like it.
But they've done one good thing, and that's what we'll close out the segment with, and then we'll get into a few trailers before we get into Stranger Things. They're going all in on the Batman director Matt Reeves, and they've given him an overall first look film deal. And he's also signed a deal with the WB Television Group. So basically, other filmmakers are probably looking at the shit show the WB is and thinking, I think I might steer clear of this. WB has a good working relationship with Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves is happy with what he's done with WB, and so he's going to be making a lot more things for him. So as part of the deal, he is going to be he's going to be co-writing a sequel to the Batman with his co-writer Mattson Tomlin. He will come back to direct it. He's hard at work at it, apparently, and basically all of his other future projects, so, WB is going to have first pass at them. And that includes TV side of things. So he's currently working on the Penguin spinoff series for HBO Max. That's still going on. That's still moving forward. And possibly we'll get even more, the Batmaniverse DC TV projects, potentially. But WB plus Matt Reeves, they may be struggling in other facets of their game, but he's a very good director. Right. So they're getting this right. And as long as they make another The Batman, I think that is absolutely the correct decision to make. So there you go. That's what's going on at WB Discovery. Let's talk about some trailers. We got a lot of interesting trailers to talk about. Strange World is where we'll start, which we received a teaser trailer for actually quite a while back. Got it in front of the Thor Love and Thunder screening.
That is what we saw it in front of. That's right.
I saw it. And when I watched this trailer, it was the first time I saw it was in front of the first time I saw Thor. And so it just associates with Thor now for me. But it's a Walt Disney animation project. Their next one, in fact, heading to theaters November 23rd. And same director as Big Hero 6 and Raya and the Last Dragon.
Okay.
What are you thinking about it? How are you feeling about it?
I didn't really give a shit about this trailer, to be completely honest with you.
Okay.
I didn't get a whole lot from it. When you tell me that it's the same director as Big Hero 6 and Raya the Last Dragon, it makes me hopeful. The trailer was stylistic, and the fact that it seemed like a 50s sci-fi movie,
right?
Just a pretty cool angle. But aside from the stylistic choice to make it kind of appear that way in the trailer, or maybe it's that way in the movie, I don't know. But aside from that, I didn't get a whole lot from this trailer or teaser. I guess it's a teaser, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way in the sense that the way the trailer is presented is really cool and neat and eye-catching because it's very different from your usual modern sensibilities. But then the actual I think the world stuff is cool. It's giving me some No Man's Sky kind of vibes, in terms of just weird
kind of like
alien
a tech
shit.
demo, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. And the things that didn't really grab me were the human bits, and I'm I don't really give a shit about the people in this. Obviously we don't know anything about them. But there's, kind of just it's a kid's film, so here's a joke, and I'm gonna punch you on the shoulder, I'm just joshing with you, kind of thing. And I'm none of these characters are endeared to me, so this attempted humor isn't really sticking the landing. And so, that's the thing for me. And I'm all right, is it gonna be a bunch of cool shit and then a bunch of characters we don't care about? That doesn't seem very interesting or fun to me. But I'm hoping that it's just a weird, cross-section of it's a teaser. It's a minute and a half. You barely got a sense of any of this, but they're trying to throw some punchiness in it to make it feel more like a kid's film and more interesting for a younger audience to be oh no, there are humans in it and they make funnies sometimes. So parents, you can take your kids to this. It'll be fine.
I think it's going to land in the same spot as the one with I think it had Chris Pratt in it. The troll movie.
The troll movie. Onward? Is that I don't know if there was trolls. One where it was elves and magic and shit.
Yes.
I think on.
Yes, and I just got I got a text message saying the lights are on in my truck, so I need to go turn them off.
Yeah, you should take care of that.
All right, sorry about that. Old Red is dead, so I had to put my drill batteries on charge. Because fun fact, you can jumpstart your car with drill batteries.
Oh. The more you know.
The more you know. It's probably not the safest.
Half the battle.
But I've done it once before, so I'll do it again.
All right. Any other thoughts on Strange World? I honestly don't remember where we were with it.
Nope. I think it'll land squarely with that Chris Pratt movie.
Yes.
Which
which I think was better than expected in terms of the marketing materials being mediocre and then the film itself being pretty fucking solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
So that's it.
I'll take that. take that. All right, November 23rd, Strange World. Did I just put it in this episode because it also has the word strange in it? Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
And because it came out months ago and we kind of need to talk about it.
We didn't talk
don't
about
worry,
that either.
we've got a whole thing of news still banked up, so I have to pick and choose carefully every time we record. We'll catch up one day. But excited to talk about this next thing with you, and I imagine you are excited to talk about it as well. Guillermo. Oh, I'm sorry, I fucked up. I took the spotlight from you. Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. It's a Netflix anthology series coming late October. We got a first look at it. So I don't think we've talked about it. I think we maybe, when we did our preview of things coming out this year, we threw it out in passing as like, this is a thing that's happening, but I don't think we've talked about it since then. So I'm excited to hear your take on it. Are you looking forward to it?
I am. It looks to me, so Netflix had another project of Guillermo del Toro's, and it was not very good at all.
Okay, what was that?
I think that was Scary Things We Do in the Dark or Tell in the Dark or whatever.
Right, and that was like a produced by kind of deal. Yeah, sure.
This looks more heavily. It looks like he's got a greater influence on these stories. It's almost like he set rules. Like this first look kind of says that they made a huge effort for practical effects and monster design and stuff, which is like his specialty. So it just seems like he's got a heavier influence on this project.
Yeah.
Which is super hopeful to me. I mean, he puts out incredible work. And he's definitely one of my favorite directors. So I'm thoroughly excited to see what he does with this. I've always been a fan of a collection of directors kind of like contributing to like one particular kind of project. I always think that's really cool. One I always go back to, there was an animated Batman feature. Also, Star Wars Visions is another one. I guess it happens more frequently with animation stuff, but you get a couple of different directors telling independent stories about, something there's one unifying line between all the projects. So if this is just like practical horror, practical monster stuff, with Guillermo del Toro's influence, then it sounds like a really cool project. I mean, it could be shit, but I'm hopeful that it's going to be really good just because it looks like his influence is more here than that last Netflix project. Also, it does look to me, there's one sequence where somebody looks like they're like in an underground thing and they find a door with like a Cthulhu monster. So if there's like Lovecraftian horror in here and it's Guillermo del Toro at the same time, I could not personally be happier. I know that H.P. Lovecraft is a morally questionable character, but he put out, I should say, some of the coolest stuff. His stuff is awesome. Like I said, if there's Lovecraftian horror elements in here on top of it being a Guillermo del Toro project, I couldn't be happier with it. I'm real excited.
Well, I have good news for you. And just looking at this, there's going to be 8 episodes in total. They're going to be dropping October 25th, one a day.
Okay.
According to this, looks like 2 a day. So 25th.
2 a day until Halloween?
Yeah, pretty much. It looks like. But the more important thing that I was going to point out is in looking at this, there are actually 2 of these episodes that are based off of short stories written by none other than H.P. Lovecraft. So you're getting 2 literal Lovecraft adaptations in this show.
Of what exactly? What do we got?
First is a short story called Pickman's Model, which that one doesn't seem to be related to Cthulhu or anything like that. But the other one, Dreams in the Witch House, is, according to Wikipedia, part of the Cthulhu mythos cycle.
So super cool.
So that's probably the sliver that you're seeing, in this first look is from that episode, I would guess. And the other ones are all based off of other short stories. It looks like written by some authors previously, and there are also two original stories by Guillermo del Toro himself, which he's not directing those episodes, but he wrote the stories for them. So we're getting some GDT goodness alongside some other, handcrafted GDT hopeful goodness. Presumably stories that he himself has found some sort of attachment to and decided this is worthy of, going into my cabinet of curiosities.
That's awesome. Sounds cool.
And that's exactly what it is. They're personally curated, is actually literally in the description of what this is. And he's going to introduce each episode, so we'll actually hear from the man himself before we see anything. So it's a really cool concept. I mean, Guillermo del Toro is obviously one of our favorite directors, and I think he's a brilliant director and a brilliant storyteller anyway. And I like the man's sensibilities. I think that, if he's picking these 8 stories, I think that they're, he's picking them for a reason, and that's exciting. So I'm really excited to check this out. I think it's like a perfect Halloween thing. So maybe we'll have a spooky time catching it, and
I told Sarah, in our 4 years that we've been together, that, I grew up every October was 30 days of Halloween. You know what I mean? You watch a horror movie every day, and that was largely because AMC put one out and I could watch them on TV. You know what I mean? But every day, watch a different scary flick. I told her this year, we're married now, and we're watching a scary movie or a scary show. I mean, it doesn't have to be a scary movie. It could be a scary show. But we're watching spooky shit for 30 days. We're getting into the Halloween mode. So it's perfect. And it's from, one of the best directors I think that could do it.
One of the best to do it. Yeah, exactly. So
real excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't think I'll be able to convince Anna to do 30 days. But maybe
it's not 30 days of the wailing either. I mean, you can do like,
you can something a little lighter,
exactly.
Than that. Yeah. Well, we watched American Horror Story last year, and for whatever reason, that seems to be in the this is an okay thing. That's a scary thing to watch. So I'll take it. We'll probably watch another season of that. So we'll see. We'll see. I do want to watch more though. I'm with you though. This is something I'm penciling in. Like I love that shit. I feel like because I don't consume it as much as I used to.
There's a yearning.
There's a yearning. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's there. All right, moving on. Well, we're moving on to 2 things here. First of all, it's another Guillermo del Toro project. That's right, 2 del Toro projects in the same year. We should be so lucky. But perhaps, I don't know, I don't want to say more importantly, but the way this shit works out sometimes is just ridiculous. But this is a new segment of the show that I'm going to now dub Pinocchio Wars, because
I knew it. I knew that's what was going to happen when I saw the script.
We've got 2 Pinocchios coming out. One's from Guillermo del Toro and one's from Disney. And let me tell you, they look very different from each other, but we're going to talk about them both.
Yeah, they do.
So we'll start with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which we received a teaser trailer for. This is coming to select theaters in November, and then will land on Netflix in December. It is a stop-motion animated film with the voice of Ewan McGregor as Geppetto, and probably some other recognizable voices. I actually don't have a list in front of me, but it looks very Del Toro-y in terms of its style, in terms of its tone and everything. But and I would assume that that's up your alley. Maybe you'll disagree, but what do you think?
Okay, so we're not in the compare contrast mode yet.
Let's just handle them independently, and then or let's just start with this one for now.
Okay, so we have Ewan McGregor, David Bradley, Gregory Mann, Ron Perlman, Finn Wolfhard,
they did
Kate
a whole
Blanchett,
casting in the trailer, didn't they?
Christopher Waltz, and Tilda Swinton. So we have a star-studded cast,
which feels more Guillermo del Toro-y than Disney, to be fair, all around. So
absolutely, for sure. We have what looks to be a beautiful stop motion film. I don't recall seeing anything quite like this. I mean, because it has, don't get me, it's got, the clay and the stop motion and whatnot that you would come to expect, but the lighting and the way everything is shot is definitely 120% Del Toro, which is really, really, really cool in this trailer. Usually you get these things and I don't know. It's not the last thing that I can think that we watched and shared thoughts on in this podcast was probably Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, probably. Only anything is. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Isle of Dogs.
And that was 110% Wes Anderson.
That was
right?
Wes Anderson. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could tell it was Wes Anderson that shot that film. But the lighting is not the same. Now, granted, it's a different kind of story. But you can tell it's Del Toro. It's Del Toro through and through, I think.
Yeah, it's Del Toro stop motion, pretty much. And it's very similar to I can't remember if it was actually stop motion, but I feel like the little animated sequence in Hellboy 2. If I don't know when the last time you watched it.
Yeah, for sure.
Similar shades to that, I think, overall.
And I think it was in Pan's Labyrinth too, wasn't it? Or is it only in?
It might be.
Am I thinking of Hellboy? I don't know. Of Hellboy.
I mean, he has a style. I mean, there's no disputing he has a very distinct visual style, whether it's live action or not. And I think that's kind of the point you're making overall. So.
I think, and another thing is this is not Disney's Pinocchio.
It is not. It is not.
It feels much more. It's definitely a much more mature. Just perspective on the story. I think. Particularly, it deals with loss, and it covers all that stuff, firsthand in the trailer. I don't know, man. It's not the story that I was expecting, but I'm very, very, very excited about it. I think that I don't know, just it seems like a more mature story, which is really cool for Pinocchio, right? Because I've only had one exposure to Pinocchio, and albeit it was a good experience. I like Pinocchio, but this is just it feels more heartfelt. Like I have one spot. I have the trailer up and it's paused, and it's got is it Geppetto?
Yeah, is
that the maker of Pinocchio?
Yeah,
is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's got Geppetto looking in, and he's reaching into a cupboard or whatever, and he just looks like a pained person. Looks like he's just seen some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I think it's gonna be fabulous. I really like the design of the spirit that comes to Pinocchio. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do a little bit of digging. I'm curious to find out what god that is or whatever that is, because it looks wildly interesting. But I'm all for it, 120%.
Yes, I fully agree. I love the style of it. I love the animation. I think the design of it is very interesting and appealing. And it's Guillermo del Toro, and I know that he's directing this one himself. It's not just I'm slapping my name on a thing. He's involved with every aspect of this film, and I think that it shines through in just this teaser trailer. So I'm very excited to see the final product in just a few months. Now there's another Pinocchio film coming out from Disney, a live action film from Robert Zemeckis, and we have a full trailer for it. I don't think we actually talked about the teaser that came out a little while back. It was mostly Tom Hanks hanging about, and then there was a very brief shot of the Pinocchio design, and then this one is very much a proper trailer showing off all of it, showing off all the animated animals, everything going on in this. You're seeing in full display in this trailer, and I'll just say at the top, it's very different from Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and it's very much in line with what you would expect from the classic animated Disney version of Pinocchio. I don't know, how are you feeling about it?
The music that was in this trailer was really good. It brought me back. It's nostalgic.
Yeah, is Pinocchio an animated film that you have nostalgia for then?
Yeah. I mean, I really like Pinocchio. It's the values of truth and all that stuff. I mean, it's good. I watched that a lot when I was a little kid. Pinocchio, like Pinocchio, and I really like the cricket. I like the cricket in general.
Okay.
I'm not particularly fond of this cricket.
Okay.
But I am a fan of the cricket in general. There's a lot of very good qualities with the story of Pinocchio. And so when we watch the Disney's Pinocchio, yes, I have nostalgia for it. The music really brings me back, and they're really fabulous songs. They're really good songs. The animation was a little concerning.
Yeah.
I mean, the wolf is one thing. Pinocchio is another. And so maybe it's one of those things, like once you're like 15, 20 minutes into it, maybe you just kind of like, maybe it's like an Alita Battle Angel kind of thing where you just kind of like...
You're good. You get used to it. You're fine.
You get used to it. You're fine. But watching these trailers back to back, I really appreciate the way they're telling... I mean, I appreciate the medium that it's being told in. Especially with the... Like you could... I mean... What is it? Small toy soldiers or small soldiers? Remember that from a long time ago?
Yeah, I think small soldiers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, small soldiers. That looked totally fine. Those were like fucking action figures, right? Like if you're gonna go that route, you could just go that route. That's not the route we're going here. But
no, it is not.
But it looks like they kind of turned to a wooden doll or a wooden marionette. Mm-hmm. He was a marionette, right? That's what he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's like they turned him into like kind of like a stuffed animal a little bit. Like he doesn't quite look.
He doesn't quite look like a little wooden boy. He looks like a little CGI. He looks
soft.
He looks like the cat and all the other animals. He looks closer to the other animals than he does to
being like a piece of wood,
like a wooden thing. Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's especially noticeable when his nose grows. And like looking at it, just looks like a hot dog. Well, his nose looks like a hot dog.
The cool hot dog nose. Yeah, it's almost like the texturing isn't quite like prominent.
Maybe it's just not done right
to make it feel like wooden. He just kind of looks like a I don't know. It's weird. I feel like it should have like more prominent wood grain textures, because right now it looks so soft that like, especially like as his face animates, like you don't see any sort of wooden features in his eyes, and even the nose, which should just literally be a wooden rod when it extends, it shouldn't look like a hot dog. It should look like a long piece of wood, or a long wooden nose. Like it doesn't. It's just kind of, none of it has the sort of fine details that would make it seem like.
Like they put a lot of detail in the fox, but
right, the animals are detailed, and like the animation's a little whatever because it's talking animals, and most of the time that's not perfect. But the Pinocchio, like he's in a weird, creepy place. I feel like for me of not quite like I don't know. I guess maybe not creepy, but like just weird and like not real enough looking. Like he looks. He looks like it feels like a 3D version of Roger Rabbit, where it's like intentionally animated characters dropped into a live action setting. And I think the disconnect between all of the animated animals / Pinocchio and Tom Hanks as Geppetto is really, really stark in like a weird sort of way where like there's no point in this trailer where I looked at it and thought Tom Hanks is talking to a little wooden boy that's alive. It looks like Tom Hanks is talking to a tennis ball on a stick. And then they slap something else in there later on. And I know that's what happened, but that's what it looks like to me. Like, so, and it doesn't have to be that way in terms of like, I'm not saying they need to throw a wooden puppet in there half the time, but I just think that it's missing details that would make it feel a little bit better.
And maybe it's just not, maybe it's not finished.
Well, I think maybe it's not done. It could also just be a symptom of the YouTube compression, which is what I'll say is She-Hulk has premiered on Disney Plus. I don't know if you've watched it, but I think
I haven't seen any of it.
She looks significantly better in her actual show on Disney Plus in 4K, where they've probably worked on it more, obviously, leading up to its actual release. But I feel like the YouTube compression smudges a lot of details. And so like here you might get a lot of fine wood grain textures that like the YouTube compression is just destroying. And so maybe when this actually is up on Disney Plus, the detail is better there. It doesn't look like a smudgy mess of textures. And then you can kind of think, okay, that is kind of like a wooden texture, like maybe that's what's happening here, generously speaking. This is going direct to Disney Plus on Disney Plus Day on September 8th. So,
I just sent you a picture. Look at this.
All right, I'm looking at the picture. Oh my God, Pinocchio has no eyes. What is happening? Is this when he's closed his eyes? Is that what's happening here?
I don't know what's happened.
It's horrifying. No,
but explain the direction.
I take back my take back. It's definitely creepy.
He's got no eyes.
This little wooden boy's got no eyes. Yeah, and again,
like does Pinocchio have to blink?
Like the colors and the lighting here, it just doesn't match up with the live action stuff. I feel like even just from that.
No, and if you play the segment where he's holding his hand, the animation looks really goofy because like it goes in and out of his hand. Yeah. It's just kind of shoddy a little bit.
Yeah, well, hopefully work in progress then for cleaning up like little shit like that. But it just feels like even the color grading is just not matched up. That like again. The live action stuff looks fine in terms of the cinematography, but then you throw all the animated shit in there and it looks like just shit pasted on top. Which I know it is, like but like it looks like it. It shouldn't look like it. It should look seamless.
And it's going to definitely be an art direction because that sequence here, he's blinking.
Okay.
He's blinking. God, it just looks really bad.
It's not great. I mean, I'll give it a go.
Like you don't have to like you can inflect emotion and whatnot without having to blink. Like he's still made of wood. He can have the soul of a boy and still be made of wood.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a like if I was in that art room, no, this wooden boy's not going to blink. He has no eyeballs.
Yeah.
He's a wooden boy.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Anyways, I don't want to get in the weeds. I'm getting in the weeds.
Yeah.
It also he's a lot lighter than what you would expect. I mean, you could give that away if it's like made of balsa wood. Maybe he's like a really light, like maybe it's just balsa wood. But man. But then like it looks like he's made of clay. Like I got another picture. It looks like he's made of clay.
Right, and I'm looking at like what the animated version looked like, and it looks like they've really just tried to recapture everything here. And I think that that's not a bad approach. It's just that in a live action medium, it doesn't.
You got to make some changes.
It doesn't look real. I think that's my biggest issue. And it's not that it has to be Lion King lifelike bullshit. It's just that again, the two elements they feel too far apart from each other in terms of design sensibilities. So like if you're gonna make the world feel a little more animated overall, then I think you need to make Tom Hanks and everyone else look a little bit more colorful and everything. Everything that's like live action is like really dark and like kind of dingy looking, and then
except him.
You got a super vibrant Pinocchio.
That's apparent in like the first frame where like he's sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
And he's glowing, and the rest of the room is dark.
Right, and it feels like, I guess that's deliberate, but it's weird, and like I just don't think it. I don't know.
But the music's really good.
The music's good. It's
I'm gonna watch it.
It's timeless, obviously, and it's gonna be on Disney Plus. You don't even have to go anywhere.
No, we don't have to wait long.
You got to go to your fucking living room and sit your ass on the couch. All right. I mean, that's not a terrible proposition overall.
I'll do it happily.
Yeah. So September 8th, we'll get Pinocchio, and then we'll get Pinocchio again in a few months after that, and then we could do a proper comparison and see which one turned out to be the better film. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Shall we move on to Stranger Things 4?
We shall. Let's do it.
Stranger Things 4, Netflix original series. Talked about it earlier. Came out in two parts. Part 1 dropped May 27th. Part 2 dropped July 1st. This episode drops probably in September, but hey, there is a lot of a lot of hours to be consumed with Stranger Things. So we've given everyone ample time to have watched Stranger Things 4 before they hear our coverage of it. We'll still do non-spoilers, of course, for those that haven't done it. But we're here now, and that's okay. It was created by the Duffer Brothers. Stars a very extensive ensemble cast consisting of Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Millie Bobby Brown, Fenn Wolfhard, Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, Noah Schnapp, Sadie Sink, Natalia Dyer, Charlie Heaton, Joe Keery, Maya Hawke, Brett Gelman, Priya Ferguson, Matthew Modine, Paul Reiser, Jamie Campbell Bower, Cara Buono, Eduardo Franco, and Joseph Quinn. It's been 8 months since the Battle of Starcourt, a.k.a. Stranger Things Season 3, a.k.a. Stranger Things 3. And the group of friends from Hawkins, Indiana, is now separated for the first time, navigating the complexities of high school when a new and horrifying supernatural threat surfaces. From the Upside Down, probably. I don't know. Can't tell you that.
We'll see.
I can't tell you that.
We'll talk about
it. Let's talk about it. Stranger Things 4. Now, I mean, I guess as a starting point, and again, we've had, at least, I know for a fact we had an episode on Stranger Things 3, and I'm not sure if we would have done episodes on the first 2 seasons. I'm not sure.
I think we did. I think that's when I come up with those different logos.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because it's one of those things where, like, the show started a while ago and there was a huge fucking gap of time. Specifically between 3 and 4 was a gigantic gap of time. And I think there was a pretty small gap between 1 and 2. And then I think a good sized gap between 2 and 3, and then a massive gap between 3 and 4. I'm going to look it up real quick. I'm going to get my summaries of all the episodes up anyway, so I can refresh my recollection. Let's see. First season was July of 2016, and then the second season was October of 2017. So we might have covered the second season of it, possibly. We did. There we go. So our podcast started in 2017, so we wouldn't have had an opportunity to talk about the first Stranger Things as a proper episode, although I'm sure we talked about it in the context of talking about Stranger Things 2. But we did Stranger Things 2, and then we did Stranger Things 3, I know, as an episode, I think with the Ink to Film boys, Luke and James hopping on for that one. Just us for this one, but Stranger Things 4 is here, and I think my point is, we like Stranger Things. We liked the previous iterations of Stranger Things, I think, overall. I mean, I think that ebbs and flows. I think season 1 was probably, through at least the first 3, the strongest season, I would say. But all have had, I think, something to offer. And, it's been pretty consistently good, I think, overall, at least in my eyes. So with that said, a starting point of, we like this show already, we're excited to see more, and then in comes more with a lot of stuff going on in season 4. How was it a successful 4th season? Did it live up to the Stranger Things standard? I mean, how did you feel about it overall?
So I think it was a return back to, I don't know, just like back to the basics of Stranger Things. Everything we liked about Stranger Things season 1. What happened in Stranger Things season 2?
So Stranger Things 2, that was the one, I think, where they introduced the demo dog,
the other kids,
and then some of the other kids came in. That's where you first.
Okay, yeah. Season 2 was shit.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't.
Is that the one where she went out on her own?
Season 2 is the one. It has absolutely, without a doubt, the worst episode in the series. The one where she goes off on her own, fucks off in Chicago, and hangs out with the super lame group of. That was
really bad.
That was very bad. The season 2 was the first. That was the Mind Flayer, was like the big bad of it, and like Will was getting like tormented.
That was pretty cool.
I think it's really that one episode that was just really bad, and it sours the whole season in its own sort of. It's so bad. It's a real Game of Thrones kind of thing of bad moments souring of a greater thing. But I think it's still a pretty good season overall. While still a come down from season 1, obviously. And then season 3 is kind of the return of the Mind Flayer, but he's like using flesh to assemble like a physical form, and so there's the whole big confrontation in the Starcourt Mall, which is the finale, and that's like what sets the stage for season 4. So that's what we had before, and then now we're at 4.
Season 4 starts off pretty cool. Puts them in a different spot. The normal crew has been
It splits them apart.
dismantled. Yeah, it splits them apart. Right. And it also leaves at the end of season 3, we got the reveal where Hellboy's in Russia or something. And
right.
That was
right. It was kind of like teased at the end, and then they basically revealed before 4 even came out, like, yeah, he's just fucking back. He's fine. He survived. He's good. So it's not really a spoiler. Yeah. It's just common knowledge at this point. So
that's right.
The how and why we can talk about in spoilers if you want, but it wasn't really that important in terms of the details of the show. It was just, Hopper's a big player in this character, or big player in this show, and we're not quite done with them yet.
Yeah. And so, it splits the crew apart, and Hopper's all the way in Russia. And so it puts everybody in a unique position. And there's a lot of room for character growth. You have to forgive me because it's been a little while.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
You have there's like this subliminal like sub arc of one of the guys that might potentially be gay.
Will maybe has feelings for Mike, maybe.
That's right. And we don't want to get into it, but I don't know if they were trying to be subtle, because it definitely was not subtle. I feel like they weren't trying to make it subtle, right?
I think it was subtle in the sense that we're not literally telling the audience, but we're slapping them across the face as hard as we can without literally just telling them the thing, is kind of how it felt like. It was very obviously coded, but in a way
it felt kind of,
a character doesn't have to literally, it's just that you tell everyone in the room, excuse me, I'm gay. Sir, have you heard the news? I'm gay. Actually, in case you hadn't heard, I'm gay. Like, they didn't do that. It didn't have the need to do that. It was explored in a more understated way while still being pretty
overtly obvious,
pretty plain
right,
in terms of what it's trying to achieve. Yeah,
maybe it was supposed to be like a closet kind of situation.
Yeah, closer to that. We're like, like people that pay attention are like, oh, he's definitely gay. I don't think there's any question about it. But no one's asked him about it, and he's not said anything to anyone about it. So we're just going to leave it at that. And I think a lot of the conversations that happen throughout the season are very much like, I'm not going to ask the question because I already know the answer, and I don't need to ask the question. The question doesn't need to be asked. So that's a story arc that they cover, and I think it's been present within. Well, I mean, at least the last season, I think it was there too. Yeah, I think it's more apparent here, but I think you could look back and see seeds of it. And obviously, a big thing too. I talked about with the synopsis, like, the kids are older. I mean, they look fucking old as shit because it's been 40 years since they filmed the first season, but like, they are actually aged up this time. I mean, they're, starting high school, and so, I think even the previous seasons, like, Will was a character who was like, I just want to play D&D with my friends, and everyone else is like, yeah, but I want to make out with my girlfriend, and he's like, I don't really need that in my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this kind of is kind of shades of that as well, where it's everyone's kind of, some of them are physically separated from each other, but everyone's kind of, doing their own thing. Like, Lucas is like, I'm trying to be a cool kid and play basketball. And the other kids are like, you know what? Girlfriends are cool and all, but I'm going to be part of this fucking, D&D club or whatever. Like, that sounds pretty badass to me. Because apparently the older kids are into this shit too. So,
they're all doing their own thing.
Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. They're growing up, growing up and growing older, and whatever that entails. And then also there's a bunch of other shit going on, like the Upside Down related shit. But that's kind of the general, nature of it all.
Yeah, and so with the Upside Down stuff, I think they really went for it in a huge way. I thought it was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was, I don't know, just felt like a return to the, like the good Stranger Things that I really enjoyed. I don't know, the super crazy villain. I thought that was pretty cool. The character design was pretty cool too. I enjoyed that. I think that they did a really good job with character design in this. And the backstory, it felt like it was really fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
And
this season, I think more than others made a concerted effort, certainly by part 2, to give explanations on things in terms of the lore that we really have only scratched the surface of in previous seasons. And I think basically this is the penultimate season. We're going to get one more. We'll get a Stranger Things 5. And it felt like, all right, we've set a lot of things up in 1 through 3. Let's start winding this down and wrapping up threads, setting up new threads and setting up threats and whatnot, for the future still. But it was very much like we got a lot to delve into here, and it delves into a lot as a result of, I think, trying to just punt the ball for another season. It really, I mean, this had elements of feeling like it could have been a final season,
That's right.
But it's not.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really cool to see, even something that has 5 seasons worth of material, but they feel like they had a complete story that they wanted to tell.
Yeah,
which is and we're depending on your perspective or your opinion or whatever, we're coming to the end of that story, and it feels like that. I agree with you. It feels like we're starting to pipe down to the final season, and every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have to end it, right? And so I feel like they're going to end it with grace. I think it's going to end very solid. So I think as far as a season 4 goes in a series, I think that this was a strong entry. I think that it was a return back to the qualities that I enjoy with Stranger Things. I think the characterization was pretty good. I think that some of the sub arcs were, I just kind of think they were handled kind of funny. They just kind of, I don't know if maybe it wasn't up to the acting prowess of the people that were on screen, or if it was just, I'm not quite sure what it was, but some of it felt kind of off. But it wasn't off enough to put a sour taste like season 2 did. It didn't sour the whole experience. I think that the soundtrack is impeccable. As with all things Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers have a very good ear for what they want to put on screen. I think it was really cool. I think that it dives into really cool territory with like the locale of where they set everything and how they choose to shoot it. I think it's really cool. I thought it was a really cool season overall. I think it was very cool, and it was a return back to the really awesome things that I really enjoy with the series. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All right.
Yep.
Right on. Yeah, I think that this is probably the best season of Stranger Things since season 1.
I agree with you,
for
100%.
Me. And I think I like season 2 more than you. I agree on the one episode, but I feel like you can almost just excise that entire episode and the rest of the season works well enough on its own merits. The only thing that's weird is like, why is 11 dressed like a fucking punk rocker, in the finale? Like, that's kind of weird. And season 3 was fun, brought in new characters, and it was really enjoyable. And you kind of had like season 3 had like the fucking Terminator guy, like the Russian Terminator guy, which is fucking ridiculous. And the mall setting was very fun. This to me, it's almost sort of back to basics in a certain sort of way of getting to the bigger threat at hand. I think in terms of like, it's not just a day in the life, it's really building to a head is really what it feels like. I think that it has a lot of the same sensibilities and vibes as season 1, but like on a much grander scale. And I think obviously a lot of that derives from like, they're spending a fuck ton of money on this, and it shows, and it's like, it's expensive looking, but in a good way. You know what I mean? It's like, they're putting the money where it needs to go to render, a lot of effects heavy stuff and a lot of interesting stuff. But I think more than that, like, you have a cast of characters that is like, 20 people deep at this point. So,
and they've all been acting together for a long time.
Right. And there's a lot of pairings that like, make a lot of sense to put these characters together, and they're characters who have been traditionally paired together for seasons, and now they're kind of apart for an entire season. So there are kind of interesting ways that they deal with the vast amount of characters that they've now, because every season has brought in someone new. Like season 2, you get Max and Billy. Season 3, you get Robin, and I think a more prominent Erica, Lucas's sister. Like each season brings in and like Murray's someone who's like become like a major character who was just kind of a jokey side character at one point. And this one brings in new characters like Eddie and the villain, Vecna as a villain, like is a pretty prominent character in this. And so like there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of shit packed into one season here. Like it's a lot of fucking material, and it's a lot of ground covered, but I think in a really, really compelling way, which I think is impressive, because it's a show where like every episode, there's 9 episodes in total. Like almost every episode, not even talking about the final episode of the season, like they're all like an hour plus. Like most shows are like, I don't know, 50, 55 minutes on the Netflix, but like these ones are all like chilling at like an hour 15 each. And then you come along with episode 9, which is literally 2.5 hours long, which is insane. Like unheard of, I feel like, for like the TV world. Even in Game of Thrones wise, that's far beyond what even Game of Thrones did. And it's kind of nuts, like, that they're like,
none of it's filler. None of it's filler.
And that's the thing, is like, there was not a moment in this season where I thought, wow, they could have cut this shit. You know what I mean? Like, it really felt like, because there are just so many things, there's so many moving pieces, there's a lot of characters to deal with, there's a lot of subplots, there's a lot going on. But not only did it not ever feel overwhelming to me in the sense that, like, wow, I can't keep track of all this shit. I can't who the fuck is that? Who's this? Who's that? What? Like, we know most of these characters. We care about all these characters that we have met before, and the new ones are like really interesting and fun additions to the group. Like Eddie is fucking hilarious and awesome, and has quickly cemented himself as a fan favorite, within like his first appearance. And I think the fact that there wasn't a single moment in this entire season where I thought, I don't care about this. And I'm not saying that like certain plots aren't more interesting than others, but like all of it was really interesting and felt like it belonged. It felt like it was building to something. Like it was there for a reason, not just to pad out a runtime, not just to fill out a long episode count because they had the money and like, I guess we got to do something with this. Like it really all felt purposeful in how it was constructed. And I thought that was just really, really impressive for something like this done on such a grand scale and in such a almost step up in terms of production values and goals from even its previous seasons. Like season 1 looks quaint in comparison. And that's good in some ways, because season 1 is a really, really tight kind of thing that could have stood on its own. It didn't need a season 2, it didn't need a season 3, it didn't need a season 4, and it didn't need a season 5. Like it could have existed purely on its own merits, and I think it would have been beloved. And it is beloved, but they've built off of what they set, and I think in a really successful fashion where, there have been some bumps along the road, like that one episode in season 2. And, some of it's been like pretty good, maybe not the most compelling, but like season 4, I think really just start to finish just was compelling. Like it was like, I felt glued to the screen just watching the whole season play out. Like, I mean, I putting the math together, I mean, it's probably 10, 11 hours worth of content. Like you're talking about 5-6 movies worth of shit, packed into a single season of stuff and it not missing a beat. It's just really, really impressive stuff. So I was very impressed with season 4. I really, really enjoyed it. I also liked, I didn't get a chance to watch part 1 until after it had already been out for a few weeks, so there were things here and there that I did unfortunately get spoiled on, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of it. And then when part 2 dropped, like we made like a really concerted effort to be like, it's only 2 things. I know they're super long, but like let's watch these right away. And so just the kind of internet fervor, I feel like I haven't really participated in like watching shows that have had the same levels of online discussions and hype since probably Game of Thrones. And obviously we know how that one worked out. So like it kind of just feels like nothing's really been able to recapture that magic of just experiencing things together with like the whole world. Like Anna and I watch a bunch of shit together, and I'm not discounting that I like talking to her about things, but I like being part of like this kind of bigger thing. And Stranger Things just really has kind of turned into that bigger thing that like it's Netflix's almost kind of premiere show at this point. Like it's if it's not the biggest deal that they
has
have
to be
on
the
their
high.
network,
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be the highest success.
It's got to be right there if it's not literally the most successful for what they do. And it's good shit. I mean, it's good shit, and it's just the way that it's built out, I think, is just really impressed me. So I think top to bottom, I enjoyed the cast all around. I'm curious to hear who you thought wasn't up to snuff with what they were working with. I'm curious to get into some of the more plot heavy things because it's a very plot heavy show, and so there's not a whole lot that I can say that doesn't just kind of immediately encroach into spoiler territory. But I thought the old cast were great. I thought the new cast were all really fun additions. Had a very compelling villain, probably the best one that I think the show has seen in general.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
You know, and a villain that's more than just I guess a beast,
organization,
like a beast, you know, like a beast that like we don't know what this thing wants. We get more depth and nuance to a villain here, which is kind of a first for the show. But the production values are great. The music is fantastic. Its use of licensed music, again, running up that hill, fucking brilliant. And the song's a banger. So all around, it's a standout season for me. One that I felt very satisfied with while watching. By the time it ended, I felt like it ended with a really, really satisfying final episode that still sets the stage for a really interesting premise for the 5th season of where do we go from here. So I think that might be it for me from non-spoiler perspective. In terms of recommendations, I think obviously, I think you have to kind of start with the understanding that like you're in the middle of a series here. So my recommendation is not going to mean a lot to you in terms of like, if you haven't watched Stranger Things 1 through 3, like I wouldn't recommend that you go watch Stranger Things 4 right away. In fact, I would encourage you to maybe give season 1 a go, give season 2 a go, and see if it's for you. But what I can say is certainly if you have watched the other seasons of Stranger Things, I can say it's the best one since season 1. And I don't know that we would have, again, had an opportunity to specifically rate Stranger Things 1 on air, on the podcast, but I would have I feel like I would have rated it as a very yes show. And I think that Stranger Things 4 is also likewise a very yes show. And I think all around, I mean, I think 3 probably would have been for me. 2 is maybe somewhere between very yes and yes, but I think Stranger Things 4 for me is kind of hands down a very yes show from start to finish. So that's what I have on recommendation. Hey,
I completely agree with you. I think that, like if I were to put them in order, it would be season 1, 4, 3, 2, as far as my orders go here.
I mean, I agree with that for sure.
I think that, man, if you watch season, what I tell people that haven't seen Stranger Things, and this goes out into the web or out into the podcast, whoever's listening. If you haven't seen any Stranger Things at all, which I think that if you're listening to watch review repeat, you're probably watching it already,
probably in the target audience for it, surely.
But if you haven't seen it yet, watch season 1 and just know that season 4 is just as incredible as season 1. That's what I would tell you.
You might put 1 above 4, but it's really not a clear cut. 1 is absolutely better than 4. It's just that 1 was such the gold standard that like everything gets compared to it.
And one does so much with so much less.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's number 1. But of course, it's the first. It's your first entry into the series. So, and like I said, if you watch season 1, you get pumped about it. I would say it's well worth the investment of time to watch seasons 2 and 3 to get to season 4. And if they continue the story, I imagine season 5 is going to be spectacular. I mean, it's going to be awesome to see how everything wraps up. So, season 4 is an incredible show. It's an incredible show, and it's well worth the investment of time. Definitely a super heavy entry into the series, and I'm glad I watched it. Yeah, couldn't be happier. I think they did a spectacular job.
Yeah. All right, let's do full spoilers for Stranger Things 4. I think probably the easiest way to go about this is maybe to talk about the various subplots. Would you agree? Because for the most part,
it's good.
The characters
it's built on subplots.
It is. I mean, it's pretty much built on. Here's a group of characters that are here doing this. Here's a group of characters, completely different location, doing something completely different. And there are some convergences, I think, by the end with a lot of them. But for the most part, the convergence doesn't really happen until like the very, very end of the season, where it's just like, oh, hey guys, I haven't seen you all season. How you been? So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the kids? Do you want to start with the Russia stuff? What comes to mind for you? Vecna.
The biggest thing for me is I'll start with the weakest
all right,
of them all.
Let's go there. I'll see if I agree, of course, but let's go there. What do you have?
I don't think Will is a spectacular actor.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think that he is. I'm sorry, I'm pouring a beer at the same time.
Multitasking.
Yeah. I don't think that, and it's nothing against him. I think he's a good actor. I think he's fine. But I just don't think he has the prowess to deliver what he was supposed to be delivering. It just kind of felt like every time that he was trying to to deliver the closeted person, I just kind of felt like it was kind of over the top.
Okay.
Right. And maybe that's ignorant of me, a full disclosure, I don't know if I'm definitely not qualified to be, critiquing the acting of somebody trying to portray this kind of character, but it just felt like, I don't know, just kind of felt hammy at certain points. You know what I mean? It just felt over the top. And maybe that's not his fault. Maybe that's the direction that they chose to try to portray that character. I don't know. But it felt too apparent and too heavy-handed to be something subtle. You know what I mean?
Like, well, I don't think it's subtle at all. And I think
it's definitely not subtle. No, definitely 120%.
So I think I kind of see what you're saying in that sense. Like it's as explicit as it could be without, again, literally telling you.
Ooh, that's good.
Le Fin du Monde. Is that? Did you go there yet?
This is Ce n'est pas Le Fin du Monde.
This is not the end of the world. Okay, all right, very good. I just think that I didn't have any issues with Noah Schnapp's acting or anything like that, but I think I agree in the sense that obviously Will's storyline in this season was unrequited feelings for Mike and kind of envy of seeing Mike reunited with 11, and
that's okay.
That was his story. That was it. That's all he got was looking longingly and being sad when Mike is a dipshit and just kind of ignores his once upon a time maybe best friend because he's got a girlfriend.
At the same time, his brother's performance in recognizing, what his brother's going through.
Yeah, he sees it. Yeah,
that performance was spectacular.
Yeah, that was really good, and they have a really great conversation again, where it's he's not asking the question because again he knows the answer, and it's not he's not going to put his brother on the spot. And put him in a weird confrontational spot that's going to make him feel uncomfortable. He's basically just being
makes him feel
whatever's going on with you, man. You're my brother. I love you. No matter what. And especially I think what I think the reason for all this is we now live in a day and age where like you can tell someone you're gay, and obviously most people are going to be accepting of that, and I think understanding of it. Not everyone,
but in the 80s, it's different.
In the 80s,
right.
it was kind of a different thing. Like you can't just kind of say that and expect. And you see a lot of it explored through Robin as well, and that's a big aspect of Robin's storyline. Is how do I tell this girl that I really really like that I like her, because that's not a thing that you usually tell people. In that day and age, is like that's not a like you have to be really fucking sure that other person is not going to react poorly to you telling them that. So for like Will, it's like if Will tells Mike like, "Hey man, I'm in love with you," and Mike is like, "Ew," then like that destroys Will. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
no, I completely get it. Right.
Right. I think that's kind of the thing they're going for and trying to convey that. But at the same time, it is kind of just like. That is all Will kind of gets to do in this series. Robin at least has other shit going on. She turns into fucking Jill Valentine by the end. With
And
fucking
it also helps that Robin's infinitely more confident than Will too. Maybe that's the difference.
Will's very much in his own head, I think, the whole time, and and he's got like this little sibling relationship with Elle at this point, but like. He's like, I'm not going to confront anyone and be assertive about anything. It's just he's just a very meek character.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And I don't know. I mean, you have Will, which is a stark contrast from everyone else in the show, and it's a stark contrast. So maybe it's, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's the fact that he doesn't have a lot to do. Maybe it's the way, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But Will in this season did not do a whole lot for me. But.
Well, I'll just say, before we move on to other things.
Go ahead. Yes.
I think what holds Will back a lot is they keep giving that poor kid the fucking bowl cut. They got to knock it off. Because
maybe that's what it is.
Because you can't fucking take him seriously because he looks ridiculous. Like it was fine when he was 10, but he's not 10 anymore, and he looks fucking ridiculous. Like just give.
He's got to walk around in public with that fucking hair.
Let the poor kid, cut his hair. I think that might do wonders for the Will character.
Maybe,
just
but
making
maybe
him feel more like I feel like. It's almost like a personality thing of like he's still kind of like his childhood was disrupted, so he's like clinging onto this childhood with like this. He's stuck, like he's stuck in limbo, and I think that's where they need to take the character is like, all right, he needs to progress a little bit, get a haircut, be a bit more assertive, and maybe in how he goes about things. And I don't think they're going to pair him and Mike off, but I think that there's a way that they can deal with that relationship and his feelings towards Mike without it turning into blowing up the friendship kind of thing, which I think,
and maybe that's could have
been the case.
Maybe that's what they're heading towards. Maybe that's why they made him. I don't know. Maybe that's why they made him this season the way he is. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a clear decision to make. Like, hey, listen, here he is entering high school, and he's still caught up in the person he was. When he got stuck in the upside down, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a storytelling decision. I don't know. But this season, he was definitely a fucking. He was an anchor. He didn't move. I mean, this is what he's doing all season. So, if I'm gonna point fingers to like any sort of criticism. At this point, without knowing what they're going to do with season 5, I would say Will is probably the lowest, the highest criticism for me.
Yeah, there's just not a lot going on there, and his sexuality is kind of his character right now. He doesn't have a whole lot going for him in terms of contributions to the plot. He's just kind of tagging along with the California crew,
and
in a way.
Aside from that interaction with his brother, he doesn't if that's the kind of direction that you want to go into with that character where he's hung up on his sexuality, I get it. It's totally fine. But aside from watching him be tormented, like for like the entire season, and then having one interaction with his brother that was pretty good, or was really good. It's not even pretty good. It was really good. It was a really good interaction. But he's got one high point in the whole season, and
not much else.
Aside from that, not much else, right?
Yeah. Whereas everyone else, I think, has a lot of moments where they're funny, or they're charming, or they do something cool, or they're involved in some sort of plot, plot thing where that's like, oh, this is fucking cool. Like almost every other character does have some shades of that,
multiple
more
stuff.
so
They're
than Will.
Right. But maybe that's, like I said, without knowing season 5, I don't know if this is like a...
It's the season of the Will.
Yeah, it's a long padded storytelling decision. And
maybe.
If that's the case, then that's great. Whatever. You know what I mean? But as of right now, reflecting on season 4, that's my highest criticism.
Okay.
I will say I enjoyed all the Russia stuff.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a whole lot.
I think I did in a surprising... I thought that was going to be my least favorite thing of it, was because it's very detached, right? It's very, very detached from everything else. Like it's Joyce and Murray, who I've found to be sometimes grating in previous seasons, off on their own adventure, and and converging with Hopper and prison, and like how much can you do of a guy just hanging out in prison? Like, I think I've watched shows where, like, you take a major character and you stick him in a prison. There's just only so many things you can do in that particular setting to keep it still interesting. And I think they actually pulled it off pretty well. They throw in that fuckhead Yuri, and Jaqen Hagar, the prison guard.
That's who that was. You're right. Yeah. Oh man. The whole time I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's great. That's who it was.
A man is a prison guard.
Yes.
A man guards Hopper. A man fights Demogorgons. Yes. So, I enjoyed that all quite a bit, actually. I thought it was all very funny and, a bit silly and out there, but like in a good fun of, sort of 80s adventure-y kind of way. Like, I don't know.
Right, exactly. They nailed it.
I think the only thing for me is like the mechanism in which Hopper survived was very kind of silly, of just being like, I just like jumped and ducked or some shit like that. Like there wasn't any sort of like elaborate, like he jumped through a portal and landed in Russia. It was just, oh, he ducked and then no one bothered to check for him. Literally everyone else in the room got vaporized, but Hopper ducked under something and he was fine.
Some concrete. Yeah, he was under the concrete.
He was good. Super strong concrete, I guess. That to me felt like I get it. You want to keep Hopper around, and I'm not mad about it because David Harbour's fantastic. He's great. Dude got fucking lean and ripped for this shit.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
It was a convincing physical transformation from him, and like almost a mental one too. Like Hopper's he's a damaged character in this one, and then he's still holding on to the hope of like reaching out to Joyce, and and then there's like moments of like we break out and oh shit we got caught again, and there's just moments there's like, oh shit, I've and trying to do things, I've been selfish, like especially when he feels like he's put Joyce in peril, like he feels like I'm the worst person in the world because
it's
I'm
actually
so selfish.
If we're going to talk about like character growth and stuff, I think Hopper's probably the star of this show as far as,
Oh yeah, well certainly from day one, from episode, season 1, episode 1 to,
yes.
What is
it?
And mornings are for coffee and contemplation. Is that
yeah, something like that? Yeah. And just it's not even character growth from point A to point B, but it's also what the actor's putting into the role.
Sure.
Because like you say, body transformation, the whole 9 yards.
Christian Bale in that shit, man.
Yeah, David Harbour's putting 120% into Hopper, and it really shows. I mean, his performance is arguably probably one of the best, if not the best.
I would say I think if there are two standouts, I think acting wise for me in this season, I would say David Harbour is one of them.
Yeah,
he's the adult standout. We'll say we'll do categories of adults and kids, and I think he's the adult standout.
I agree 120%. And just his role in the franchise has been incredible. Like, I mean,
yeah, he's fun. He's great. And this is a turn where he's not so fun because he's in a really fucking awful, terrible, shitty situation, but he's still a magnetic presence who you care about, and you want Hopper to figure
Lots
out
of charisma.
what's going on. You want him and Joyce and Murray to figure it out. Yeah, and the way that it all kind of came together and had its twists and turns, like there's enough material in there that's a whole different show. I mean, it is kind of a different show, right? It's mostly separated from the Upside Down until it isn't. In which case, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Hopper wields a fucking sword and fights a Demon Gorgon with it. Did I make that up? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I make that up?
No, you definitely did not make that up. That definitely happened.
It's been a little while,
right?
and I'm like, now that I'm drinking, like, am I just making up details?
But it's still in Russia. It's totally.
It's still detached from the Vecna. Like Vecna is like the big I feel like storyline, like driving force throughout, like the biggest mystery throughout the season. And
we haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah, we'll probably finish there. Honestly, that's probably where it ended the spoiler coverage. But that's the big thing. And then Hopper is a side adventure. He's a side plot. You know what I mean? If Geralt is picking up he's going to a townsfolk and being like, you've got to go to the other town in Russia to pick up, a Hopper. And he's like, oh, fuck. All right. He's a side plot in an RPG. And it's good.
It's true. It's a big side plot.
It's like a Mass Effect thing. You recruit your side character, and like he's the coolest fucking character in the thing, so you want to get him. You technically don't really need him, but it's like way better for the story if you do.
I'm rescuing this motherfucker from a Russian prison guarded by. They're feeding the prisoners to these interdimensional beasts. Yeah.
That's
I want that fucking guy. He can wield a sword. Yeah, totally all about it,
man. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed that all. I thought it was really, really fun. The shit with flying and everything. Like and Murray was really, really funny this season.
Murray was really good. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
it's true.
I just how all of those elements coalesced, I think, really, really worked well for me. I was very.
I like how they detached I like how they detached a large portion of the adult main members and put them on their own adventure.
Yeah, I mean the kids are kind of kids are just on their own, really. Like the parents are not involved. And I feel like Joyce has always been like the parent who's been the most involved, and she's literally physically removed from the situation so that her kids who are in California, are doing their own thing, and then all the Hawkins kids.
Batshit crazy stuff's going on while Joy's gone. You got the FBI, you got I don't know if it's the FBI.
Well, it's the fucking government, like the military, like storming the fucking her home, and the one badass agent who fucking John Wicks for a bit there. That's good stuff.
That was pretty good.
California is probably kind of the next biggest locale in terms of the collection of characters, which starts with L.
We get a new guy too. We got the fucking pizza guy.
That's right. Argyle,
the other stoner.
Yeah. Well, they made Jonathan a stoner, paired him with Argyle. I thought that was very funny. The dinner scene was hilarious. Very good stuff. But then they kind of just go road tripping like that. Like there's a fucking John Wick shootout in this house, and then they're just like, all right, well, fuck it, we're leaving, man. And they kind of just go off like on the quest to find Elle is kind of like that's kind of their plot, right?
It's great.
Although I guess before that,
go ahead.
I was going to say before that, there is kind of that first episode or first two episodes or whatever where Eleven is with them and she's not fitting in the high school very well. And Angela, if you recall, is her bully, and they have a little encounter at the ice or the roller skating rink.
Oh, it was terrible. And she goes, and she fucking screams at her and doesn't do anything.
Cringe. She just, just painful to watch.
Oh no,
painful to watch.
It was terrible. It was very painful. It was awful.
Bashes her head in with a roller skate, and all was well. She deserved it. I'm not condoning physical violence. It's absolutely assault. No question about it. I just think, fuck around and find out.
She had to fuck around and find out. I like that. I'll co-sign that. Fuck around and find out. I like it.
So
yeah, no, I enjoyed the stoner trip from California eastward. I thought that was very good. I think one of the best parts is when they needed salt for the They needed an isolation chamber. And he's like, dude, I got it. You need salt? How much salt do you think you need? And he's like, he just came in clutch with the fucking putting her in a pizza fucking freezer and
I
all the
like
salt
that when
and
they
stuff.
roll up to
It
that
was so
location.
good.
There's just like an Argyle clone who's also like, what's up, dude? You know, like all the surfer boy pizza people are just fucking stoned out of their minds at all times. Great stuff.
I got some green for you. You wanna
Good stuff.
Totally. Yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed that a whole lot. Also, what's his face's girlfriend, the hacker?
Dustin's girlfriend. Yeah, that's right. They go to her house.
Yes.
They find
Yeah, that was pretty great.
is it Argyle that falls in love with her sister or whatever like that? Who's yeah, that was good.
I can't remember exactly what happened because it's been too long. But yeah, you got he falls in love with her.
The whole house was chaos because like there's the kid who's like shooting the arrow and shutting the power off or some shit.
He's like dressed up as an Indian,
and
right?
The dad is just like losing his fucking mind.
It was good. It was a good dynamic.
Fun. Chaos.
All that stuff was pretty good. I think one thing that's worth mentioning is probably the interaction with 11 and Papa.
Yeah, because
Papa meets his demise.
Yeah, he does. 11 goes off on her own thing to regain her powers because she's powerless at the beginning and doing cringy things against Angela, and everyone's like, oof. So she goes off with Paul Racer's character, Dr. Owens, meets up with Dr. Brenner, who survived his Demogorgon attack. He's just got a few scars now, but he does meet his demise, you know, and I think good is what I think. I think he was an abusive piece of shit to all of those children, and I think that he deserved to die. And I think that the particular way in which they did it was very well done of 11 not forgiving him, and I don't think that she needed to. Like, okay, it's great that I got powers because you tortured children and I happen to be strong enough to, survive all of this, but like, no, like you're a manipulative, abusive piece of shit and I don't need you anymore. Like I'm beyond you now. Like, I just thought that was all really, really well done. And it was an interesting exploration. Like, I liked, rekindling that dynamic because we really hadn't seen that, I feel like, since the first season. And the stuff with like the sensory deprivation tank and stuff was all kind of well done in terms of trying to get her powers back. Like, it's one of those, this is a good example, I think, almost because like it's a storyline. It's like the obvious conclusion is 11 will get her powers back. I think it would almost be more of a plot twist if she didn't get her powers back, right? Like, that it's coming.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you make that interesting? If it's kind of a foregone conclusion, again, the way you make it interesting is if you just do completely opposite of what is expected, or you find a way to make it interesting. And I think that her interactions with Brenner are interesting. Like, it's a nice exploration of this kind of abusive relationship, almost abusive sort of father surrogate daughter relationship. That all was just handled really well, I think, in terms of doing it tastefully, where it's not shying away from what it's depicting, and then it's still condemning it by the end. I think that was all just really, really nicely done. And then she gets her powers back, which is good. Good for her. She needs them. She's good. She's got to go.
Right.
Got to go do mind battles and such. So, yeah, I liked Elle in this, and I liked that she was kind of honestly off to the side for the main thrust of it. I mean, she does obviously come back in, through the mind battle, but she's still physically separated even by the end. So she can't have a big showdown with Vecna by the end or anything like that, because she spent most of the season figuring out her own shit and then only barely meeting back up with the California gang and moving with them at that point. So I thought that was an interesting way to handle 11, of sidelining her a bit, because presumably in season 5 she's going to be leading the charge, you would think, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got
you got the rest of the crew back in Hawkins, right?
The rest of the back in Hawkins. We've got a potential rekindling of a flame between
Steve and Nancy.
Will's sister.
Yeah.
Steve and Nancy. Old Steve and Nancy.
Yeah, Jonathan didn't bother to visit Hawkins on his spring break. He's just staying in California like a loser. So I'm gonna see if I might have some interest in Hunky Steve again. He's like a dad now. He's the dad of the group now. He was a bully. He was a jerk. But now he's just like he's like a dad. That's great.
So if we're talking about second character growth, we're talking about Steve. Steve Harrington, from season 1 to season 4, has seen tremendous amounts of growth as a person, and he has steadily grown to be one of my favorite characters. He's got a lot of charisma. Every time he's on screen, you're paying attention, and he's just very compelling.
Got a great rapport with literally every fucking character. I think that helps.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Chemistry with Nancy, and a really fun dynamic and friendship with Robin, which he thought was chemistry at one point. She did not. And him and Dustin are gold together as well. He just plays off everyone really, really well. He's such a fun character, as the dad of the group.
And he's got to explore that that dichotomy that comes from Dustin wanting to hang out with the D&D dude. Eddie. And you see little tidbits of jealousy in there and everything else, and it makes it really a really entertaining arc. It makes it awesome. So I really enjoyed his character this season. Nancy sees that, I don't know, you see some conflicts with Nancy's character as well, because of Will's brother being over in California. He's not coming to visit, and I don't know. It's just it was a really good pairing this season. You have that tension between them, and I don't know. It was really good. What else do I have?
Well, this
Eddie. We can talk about Eddie. We can talk about Eddie.
He's great. What a great addition.
So, Eddie's a new addition, and Eddie plays the role of the satanic D&D.
Satanic if you ask that fuckhead who's on the basketball team, who's leading a fucking mob to kill this guy.
I think that was Tucker. I think it was Tucker Carlson as a child.
It might have been. A little baby Tucker. I didn't see any bow ties, but it could have been.
I could see that guy sporting a bow tie.
Yeah, he's definitely a future Fox News anchor. Unfortunately, he did get bisected before he had an opportunity to be a Fox News anchor. R.I.P. to him, obviously. Just kidding. That guy sucked. Fuck him. That dude got increasingly unhinged the longer the show went on. He was like an asshole to begin with, and then he was just full on deranged psychopath by the end of I'm ready to kill kids. Satan, dude is nuts. But Eddie was fantastic. Our metal guitar playing D&D, guy. He was such a fun presence. I think that it was interesting to have Mike and Dustin, and I guess really everyone, eventually as they kind of come to interact with him, he was just like a cool dude, I don't know. Eddie was just every time he was on screen, I just couldn't help but being I fucking love this. This guy's awesome. I want to be friends with Eddie, and I felt bad because the whole storyline is everyone thinks I killed, this girl who,
which we didn't talk about it. How brutal are the fucking the Vectin murders,
they're
man?
Brutal, man. Just
bone snapping and
legs and arms going ways they shouldn't be going, and the eyes popping out. I guess they're gnarly. It's brutal shit right there. All the characters, I think, in this particular group, I think that this is the big plot line of the season. I think it's my favorite part of the season. I think all the Vecna stuff, and I think the group figuring out the mystery of Vecna and who is Vecna and what's going on here, all of that was just really, really, really well done. And Vecna as a villain, I think maybe we can start there if you want. Really interesting. I mean, I think from pure Vecna persona and then getting into one, into Henry Creel, like that's all really interesting too. But I think Vecna as like a design, it's the most like humanoid sense to Demogorgon, but he talks, like he communicates with his victims. He's like almost like a serial killer. He's like a Freddy Krueger-esque kind of, slasher villain, really. Like I feel like those early episodes especially had very strong slasher vibes. Like it wasn't just like paranormal horror aspects. It was like straight up like slasher and bones breaking and blood flying, kind of shit, which was almost more intense, I think, than we'd seen in previous seasons, like Vecna's influence and and even like the straight up like horror influences, like the grandfather clock, like the chiming, like it's just creepy, and like effectively creepy, and like that's the kind of horror-y stuff that like you and I as apparently experts of watching 30 Days of Horror or whatever, like there are things that like don't really faze me when I watch horror films, but I did feel like this handled it effectively enough where I felt not scared exactly, but like unnerved by like certain aspects of how they portrayed, like like when the clock strikes and like just so just like seeing visions, and like there are scenes where like they have had whole conversations with people and they're like, oh, that person wasn't there, like that was just Vecna fucking with me. Like all of that was like perfectly unnerving in a way that like I feel like a horror-y villain should.
A straight up horror movie.
Great. I really, really liked all of that. I think the design itself was good. He, I think Anna said at one point, he's a little Grinch-esque in terms of like the way he carries himself. Jim Carrey Grinch-esque, but once you get past that, you're fine.
It's a good reference. It's good.
But it was good. I mean,
totally
the visage, the voice, I think was just really well done as like a compelling, like scary villain. And he does literally have like one big fucking Freddy Krueger ass claw hand, which is good shit too. But then the backstory,
good monster
design, good, just effective. And then I think the backstory itself was also really, really interesting and well done, of tying him in with 11 and being someone else who has powers, who is then cast into like this. It was kind of weird. Like it looks like where he ends up is like, it looks like a totally different dimension that's not the Upside Down at first. You know what I mean? Like where you're like where one is originally sent, and then like he seems to like use his powers through the Mind Flayer and whatnot, and like I don't know. There's aspects of like the Upside Down that I'm still not clear on, probably because I haven't watched the show super recently, so there's probably some details that I'm just fuzzy on. But also, like, there's, like, I know little things where it's just, like, they make a very specific point at one point where, like, the Upside Down is, like, suspended on one particular day. Like, Nancy finds something, and she's like, oh, this is something I had, like, a year ago. And it's, like, seems to be linked to the day that Will got taken in season 1, and I'm not really sure why that would be the case. So there are aspects of like the Upside Down lore that I'm still not 100% clear on, but I liked that like Vecna seems to be the center point of it all, right? He's like he's right. He seems to be, for all intents and purposes, the big bad. Like he's the driving force behind it all, and he's out, for revenge kind of thing. Like I don't know, the way they explained all the backstory there, I thought was really well done.
I agree. Yeah, she like propelled him into the 11 broke whatever like the interdimensional things that I don't know. Not you don't know. I don't know. But she broke it. 11 broke the shit, and she pushed one through it, and he finds the Mind Flayer and like bonds with it, and it changes them, and I thought all that stuff was really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot else besides that.
Yeah, I mean, really I think other than that is really just kind of how it all ends. I think for the season, which is basically, they concoct a big plan to take out Vecna, and they use Max as bait, and I don't think that goes as well as they expected.
Max is fucked up.
Max got big fucked up. she's like without a soul or some shit. Like, you know, like she was like the process of Vecna taking her was interrupted, but like pretty far into the whole thing. So she's in a really awful state with a bunch of broken limbs and, you know, in a coma without...
She can't see. She's fucking blind.
And 11 can't communicate with her. So they left Max in a really dark state, which I want to say, I thought for sure, because of the way they split it, part 1, part 2. Part 1 has episode 4, Dear Billy, where she's, you know, she's like written all the letters to everyone, and, you know, she that's where she gets, you know, lifted up in the cemetery with Vecna, and they bring her back with running up that hill. That episode was incredible. That whole sequence was incredible.
Yeah, it's very awesome.
And I think that I can't remember exactly where it's placed, but basically like her confession, you know, I think like her reading out what she wrote for Billy in episode 4 was really, really powerful. And then I think she gets taunted through a lot of the season about like her relationship with Billy, of just being like, you wanted him dead, like you fucking hated him and you wished he would die, and, you know, and that sort of thing. And then by the end she's like, yeah, kind of. Yeah, like, yeah, I did kind of wish he was dead. Like, I didn't like him. You're right. And it just felt like it's such a powerful performance. So I think Sadie Sink, who plays Max, was my kid standout of the actors. I thought she was fucking amazing.
That's true. Yeah, it's very good.
That, like, right. You know, the Dear Billy episode particularly, like, I thought, all right, she's escaped Vecna. She'll be good for the rest of the season. You know, she's had her moment to shine. And then they fucked her up, obviously, so I was wrong about that. But I just thought that she was really, really incredible. I thought just the powerhouse performance of all the kids, who were all very good. I'm not saying that they weren't good, but she felt like a clear, like, a step above. You know, she was the David Harbour of the kids, if you will, you know, in terms of just really fucking bringing it. But Eddie unfortunately lost to some bats, some demo bats. They some upside down bats took him down, unfortunately, but he played it out with the Master of Puppets, you know, some badass shit, and basically it all seems to be setting the stage for the upside down, like breaching the gates, the upside down gates, and coming into the real world. Like there's like an earthquake type shit, and I feel like Nancy has a vision of like the world being like fucking destroyed and stuff like that, and it feels like that's where season 5 is going. I think that's a really interesting premise, so I'm excited to see how they tackle all of that. It's not going to be here for probably at least a couple of years, but I feel like it's going to be pretty fucking grand in scale, and I'm very excited to see where it all goes. So I think that's it for me on the season 4, on the Stranger Things 4 train.
That's all I got.
I'm sure there are details we missed, but such as what happens when you talk about it a month to a month and a half after you've watched it. So here we are. I think we did pretty good, all things considered. Highly recommend Stranger Things 4. Check it out on Netflix. Have you been up to anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think I put it in a text message.
I think you did text me a few things, so you remember. Let's see here.
The first thing that comes up immediately is Pinocchio and his clay face.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that anymore. I think we've covered that.
All right. So,
yes,
I started Westworld.
Okay.
Season 4. Season 4 of Westworld.
How many episodes in are you?
I think 5 or 6.
Okay, so you're at least halfway then, right?
Yeah, I think so.
How is it? How you feeling about it?
Westworld seems pretty good. They took it in a good direction.
Okay.
It's like they have a story to tell.
Like so trending in the right direction compared to previous seasons, like better than season 3, season 2, or what do you think? About the same?
About the same, I think. It's I don't know. They're taking it in unique directions. That's all I can say.
All right, which is probably good. It's not stagnant or boring, I guess.
Exactly. No, it's compelling. It's not a direction that I would have seen coming, but that's what they did, which makes it good.
Okay.
Started Abbott Elementary. Have you heard of the show?
I have heard of it, but I have not watched any of it.
I think it's fabulous. I think it's really, really, really good. So it's kind of like it's like The Office told from elementary school perspective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what it is.
Okay.
But the main the main actress wrote the show, and she won a ton of awards for it and everything else. And it's really good. I like Abbott Elementary. Recommend it.
All right. I do want to watch it at some point, probably soon, because it's Philly based, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, it's Philly based. Yeah, there's a lot of talk on Philly, and it makes me laugh. I don't live in Philly.
Yeah.
But I like Philly, and yeah, a lot of Philly stuff in it. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I started and finished the Resident Evil Netflix show. Have I talked about that at all?
I don't think so. I don't know. If you did, you talked about it in the Miss Marvel episode, and I don't honestly remember it. So I give you. So you might have started it. I don't even. I'm not even going to say
the
The
Resident Evil. It's picture a Resident Evil show told on the CW.
Yeah. I remember. I saw the reviews when it was coming out, and they seemed pretty shit. I'm like, well, it looked like shit. I guess this all checks out. I think I'll skip this one.
It's definitely a CW.
What compelled you to watch it? What of it was?
It's just Resident Evil. I'll watch it.
The brand name, the franchise name is like, all right, maybe there's.
I'll watch it.
Maybe there's something here for me.
Yeah, of course, I'll watch it. It's Resident Evil. I'd like to play the video games. The video games have gotten too realistic for me. I can't play. Yeah, a little too spooky for me to play.
All right.
But I'll watch it. I'll watch a scary show. I mean, I can't. The thing is like when you're playing a scary video game, you have to move.
Yeah,
as a character, you have to move.
Yeah, and watching something, it takes the control element away from you. Like, whatever happens. It's not up to me.
Exactly.
I have no bearing on this.
But if I move in that direction and something fucking
jumps out,
shitty
like,
happens, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
got to play Resident Evil 7 in VR at some point for the ultimate horror experience.
Fuck that! Holy shit! I couldn't do it. I couldn't play Resident Evil 7 just
on the TV.
Sitting on the TV, right? Let alone VR it. No way. Anyways, so it's a Resident Evil show told on the CW is how I would describe that experience. It wasn't spectacular. If it comes on again, if it gets renewed,
another season, you're gonna go back, you think?
I'll probably go back.
How is it compared to the other video game series that we got this year, Halo, which we all know was a classic, as we talked about?
It's about on par. Yeah.
All right.
It's about on par.
All right. Fair enough.
I feel guilty for picking up Halo again. I will feel equally as guilty for watching Resident Evil again.
Okay.
But, it's something different, something that we don't get to watch a lot of, so I'll watch it.
Yep.
I watched Groot, so we want to talk about animation with Groot. Have you seen any of the Groots?
I haven't watched any of the Groots. I have not. They're all
okay.
Like 3-4 minutes a piece, right? And there's like 5 or 6 of them.
They're very short, they're very charming, and they're incredibly well animated.
Okay.
Makes you wonder what the fuck is everybody doing with animation? Like Pinocchio? Come on, Pinocchio. Step up your game.
Gotta get the I Am Groot team on
I got like, just watch it. You got an OLED TV now. Just watch it.
Okay.
It's fucking beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shit, dude. It's so pretty. It looks so good.
Okay. I want to watch it. I just haven't yet.
Beautiful stuff. Real quick, I think I watched all of them in the span while Sarah was like doing like something like, I don't know. I think she was like putting away laundry or something, and I watched all of them.
I was going to say, I can't make a claim that I don't have enough time to watch it, because that's just patently untrue. I just need to find 20 minutes of my life, and that's it.
I don't know if we talked about this, but this happened a little while ago. I started and finished the last season of Love, Death, and Robots. It's a show that I've been watching for a little while on Netflix.
You may have, you may not have. I again couldn't tell you. It's
pretty good.
When did the most recent season come out? Was it?
I feel like it's been a couple months.
It's been a while. Yeah. So did you like slowly work your way through it, or just picked?
No, I think I watched. I think I watched it all on like the honeymoon or something like that.
Okay.
But I was like scrolling through shit that I had watched in order to like build up on this, because I know I forget a lot of the things that I watch and do.
Yeah, sure.
So that was one of the things that popped up.
Okay.
It's really, really, really good. It's beautifully animated, and I think the stories are really awesome. It's a cool show. If you haven't watched it, they're like 20-minute shorts, and they're really good. It's on Netflix. It's a quick in and out, and I think the show is. I think your boy's on this. Zodiac. Zodiac?
Fincher's involved with it. David Fincher.
Yeah, David Fincher's heavily involved with the series, and it's a really good series. It's really good. Let's see here. What else? I had to scroll back down. Hold on. I also started and finished 50 Shades of Grey, the first the first
movie.
show,
Okay.
first movie.
Was it your choice to watch it, or was it inspired by someone else? Did someone else choose it for you?
Someone else chose it for me.
All right, okay.
It was not my first choice,
All
but
right.
I watched it.
And how did you feel about it? Did you enjoy your time with Christian Grey and?
Yeah, so Christian Grey's kind of
What's her face?
Christian Grey's kind of fucked up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little fucked up.
Okay.
He comes from a fucked up environment and whatnot. He's a complex character, but he's still pretty fucked up. I'd say he's still pretty like Ezra Miller fucked up. Like he's kind of fucked up.
All right.
The movie was kind of shit a little bit. The second one is definite. Like the first one's like manageable. Like you can watch it.
It feels like a movie. It's just not a good one.
Yeah, it's like it's okay. I can sludge through this. It's whatever. We got to the second movie, and Sarah was even distracted by like her phone or her computer, and it's like, okay, listen, if you're not in it, I'm not. I am 120% not in it.
I would rather spend my time watching Resident Evil. Thank you very much.
Exactly. So we did not finish the second one. She's wanted to start it and like restart it again. But the second one's solid shit so far. Anyways,
all right.
From what I've seen, solid shit. The other one's kind of like doughy shit a little bit. Like you can like you can pass it. Like if you're going to talk about turds, you can pass that one. This one's like you didn't need enough fiber. Like this one's hard to pass. And I think that's largely what I've been up to.
Okay.
I think so. Anyways, as you talk, I'll see.
Well,
if
I was
going to
say, if I may, there was something that you mentioned that you watched that I also happened to watch. Maybe we could talk about that now. A film called The Black Phone, getting a head start.
Oh yeah,
on the 30 Days of Halloween with that one. But
we did watch that.
It was on Peacock, so I watched it. I watched it when Anna was not at home.
I watched it with Sarah and her cousin. Her cousin wanted to watch something spooky.
Nice.
She came down from North Carolina, and she was all about it, so we watched it. Mm-hmm. That was a really good movie.
I thought it was. I thought it was good, not great. I think relative to modern horror movies, pretty fucking good. But in terms of just other standards, I thought I enjoyed it. But I don't know. It was simple in its approach and simple in its execution. I think there were things that I liked about it, but by the end, I never felt like wowed by any part of it, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I think looking at it from a horror perspective, I think it's simple, it's effective, it's low budget, which I think low budget makes a huge difference. I think
yeah, and it does feel low budget, and not in a bad way, right?
No, right.
It maximizes using a limited set and limited things. I mean, like obviously it's Ethan Hawke and like he's a big name, but like he's not in it a whole lot in the first place, but also when he is in it, he's kind of masked up and just being like creepy and menacing. Like, I honestly, when I think about it, I think about the shot of him sitting in the chair, like waiting, like, you know, with the shirt off. Like that was the kind of like an iconic shot, like where I was just like, oh fuck, like that's some intense shit. Like I found it compelling, and I think like even just like the certain stylistic choices of how it was made were really cool. Like when the grabber, like when you see like there's like a kid, you just follow the kid for a bit, and then you see the van, and then it just like slowly fades, and you're just like, oh
yeah,
that was like a cool touch, and it was like a recurring thing throughout of how they handled that. I don't know why I can't really pinpoint like why it didn't like wow me in any sort of way. I thought it was like that was like a really solid,
wildly simple movie
film. Like I think the thing is, like, it never had a moment where it went, holy shit, you know, for me. It was just like, it all kind of played out in a pretty interesting but not unexpected sort of way for me.
Right. I think that this movie it's a simple horror movie. It's not anything,
like, it's not particularly flashy or anything like that.
No,
like,
it's not flamboyant in any way.
But, like, that's kind of the point.
Exactly. It felt like, I think that if you would have got this horror movie 20 years ago, I think it would be a cult classic.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's just, you know, I don't know. It's a simple movie. And I enjoyed the simplicity. I thought it was it ended. I've had enough beers now to where I'm starting to slur a little bit. It ended kind of like a flat note. Just kind of ended.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of just trailed off.
And that's
horror movies, I think, notoriously struggle to stick the landing in some ways, because it's usually like, well, everyone dies, or most everyone but one person dies, you know, and it's like there's often not like a super easy, clean way to finish it and like resolve things. And this one was just kind of just like, and then life continued on, I guess, probably, you know, like that was kind of how it felt. I was like, okay, all right. Like it wasn't.
They beat the bad guy.
Like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't impactful either. You know what I mean? It was just like, all right, he's all right now.
That's the end of the story. We're done.
Yeah.
We're done here.
Yeah.
Boom. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of where, I mean, I think that's the biggest shortcoming of that movie is just the ending. The ending just kind of felt like, okay, all right, we're done here. So
yeah. All right, you can go home now. Directed by Scott Derrickson. Goodbye. Fucking leave, please. I think honestly, I enjoyed it, and I think that it sucks because I think it's a film that the trailer told you everything about the movie, and I think that kind of deflated it a little bit. I think it kind of took the wind out of the sails a little bit, because it's like, oh well, everything about it, like I'm talking about it now, I'm like, there's nothing about it that I didn't really like dislike. I think like there's a lot of elements that are really good and enjoyed, and I thought it was well done, even as a simple, you know, short but sweet kind of horror entry. And I'm wondering if it's just that like I knew exactly what I was getting before I even started watching it, and then by the end there was no thing that surprised me, if that makes sense. It's just like, no, what was advertised was exactly what I got, no frills. And I think I maybe wanted more, because I was just like, okay, so they just put the whole movie in a trailer. That's what we're doing here. I thought we stopped doing that after the Castaway trailer, but it's good. I mean, you know, I enjoyed watching it on Peacock. I don't think I needed to see it in theaters. I think I would have enjoyed watching it in theaters, but I don't regret missing it or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's solid. Watch it on Peacock if you're well, especially when we're still a month plus. Although by the time this goes out, we'll be about a month or so away, roughly, from spooky season. I think it's a solid one to fire up if you haven't seen it yet, and you're ready to get in the spooky mood for the year. So yeah, that's the Black Phone. All right, I'm going to talk about some other things I've been up to, if that's all right. Then we can get out of here.
Yeah, fire away, dude.
All right, so I turned 30 recently. To
Happy birthday.
Momentous occasion. Thank you very much. And so I had a fairly busy weekend, actually, as it turned out. Let's see. Started the day. I think we did brunch, which was good. It was a good fun brunch, and then I had a Gator Club meetup with some fellow Florida Gators in Philadelphia, and then I don't even remember what I did, but it was very busy. And I think we went to a Chinese Lantern Festival. Oh, we had dinner at a brewery, which was good. Had some beers, and then we went to a Chinese Lantern Festival, which was really, really cool setup, really cool thing, like a 5-minute walk from where we live, which was really awesome. Then Sunday, we went to Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson Township, New Jersey. Went on some roller coasters, which was very fun. Had never been to that park, and rode a good variety of coasters, some that were very painful on my legs and painful and cutting my circulation off in certain spots, but some were really fucking good. And we actually got an annual pass, so we'll go back at some point over the next year. So I'm looking forward to that. It was good fun. I had good company. And then the following weekend, Anna had her bachelorette weekend, which meant a Saturday just for me, hanging out with Obi, doing my thing. So, for my birthday, I got a few good things. I got a handful of vinyls. So I got a 9 Inch Nails with Teeth vinyl, a Tool Fear Inoculum vinyl. I think we stopped by a record store while we were out, and I got myself the Tears for Fears Songs from the Big Chair. I got the original Star Wars John Williams score, and so I listened to 9 Inch Nails with Teeth on my birthday, but I watched a few movies. I finished The Karate Kid Part 2, which I started when I was very ill a while back, and I mean like a year plus. I don't even think like a COVID illness or anything. It might have been a post booster or post first or second shot illness, now that I think about it. So I finished The Karate Kid Part 2 because I really want to go back and keep watching Cobra Kai, which I think I'm in the middle of maybe season 3 of. And it's getting to the point where there's a lot of Karate Kid Part 2 references, and I know seasons 4 and 5, I think, have a lot of Part 3 references, so I'm trying to immerse myself in the Karate Kid world, and so now I'm ready to go back to Cobra Kai and finish that season that I had started, where Daniel goes to Japan again. Karate Kid Part 2 is mediocre, but it's a fun change of setting. It's all takes place in Japan, basically, except for the beginning. Good Mr. Miyagi stuff and whatnot. Yeah, it was all right. And then I watched I talked about the Black Phone. That was one of the things I watched because Anne was out of the house, so I could watch horror things and get away with it. I wanted to watch Scream as well, the new Scream, which is on Paramount Plus, but I didn't get around to it. But I did watch Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which came out I think a couple of years ago, and I never actually got around to watching it. And I had a lot of fun with it, actually. I don't think it's a great film. I think Kevin Smith's quality of filmmaking has dropped over the years. I think he's kind of gone in reverse as a filmmaker of like peaking early, and I think it's just one of those things, like things are low budget. I think he does fewer takes, and I think that it's just I think he's got a quick and simple method of filmmaking these days, and it's not inherently bad. I just think that it's one of those things where some things are funny and some things might have been funnier for me 10 years ago. And some of it is like really heartfelt and good. Like I think he made this post his heart attack, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's like jokes about like, oh, you look so much skinnier, than you used to, Silent Bob, and stuff like that. But I enjoyed seeing those two characters being fucking stupid and ridiculous together. Had a lot of great cameos. Ben Affleck particularly was very, very funny in it. Has a really nice like heartfelt moment, and then like a lot of good jokes kind of baked into that whole scene, which was very fun. And it's got a lot of returning players from the View Askew universe, like people from Mallrats coming back, and Matt Damon's in it for like a minute as Loki from Dogma and shit like that. So it's it was fun. It's on Amazon Prime. I think if you have any interest in the Jay and Silent Bob kind of world, I think it's a fun, worthy addition that is, just about as... I never thought Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back was like an amazing classic or anything like that. It was probably always my least favorite of most of the View Askew stuff, and I think that it's really... This one hits on a lot of the same ideas, I think, by design in some ways, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I finished reading and watched the movie of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets with Anna, and I enjoyed it. The book itself, I think, I think I probably would have talked about this on the Miss Marvel. It's the first time that I'm rereading Harry Potter as a series since Deathly Hallows came out, and the first book I feel like had a really nice pace to it. The second book, I think, for the first half is a bit slow and doesn't really find its footing until it really establishes kind of firmly the mystery of the Chamber of Secrets and the Heir of Slytherin and who opened the chamber, blah, blah, blah. And I think once it does find its footing, I've always found Chamber of Secrets really compelling. I just like that mystery aspect to it. The movie, I think, is a solid adaptation. It's... The first movie just has so much magic to it, and the second one doesn't really have the same sort of like newness to it and the freshness to it. But I think it's a pretty solid adaptation of a pretty interesting and compelling story overall. So I had fun with it. Talked about it briefly. Started She-Hulk Attorney at Law. 2 episodes are up now. I've only watched 1, but I really, really enjoyed the first episode, so I look forward to watching more of it. And then last but not least, for a long time, I put many hours into a game called MLB The Show 21. Which you'll notice is the old. It's not the most recent version. But I did something I've never done in my life.
Fuck that game. Fuck that game.
Andrew loves baseball games. He loves them. I did something I've never done before, and I'm actually quite proud of it. Usually I always start a franchise mode and play as the Atlanta Braves because they are my team after all. And then usually I play like half the season and then I give up and just move on and do other things with my life. And I did do that this time. But then Anna was like, how come you're not playing baseball anymore? At one point I was just like, oh yeah, maybe I should finish the season out. So I did. I went back and I finished the season and I won the World Series as the Atlanta Braves. And I think the reason I felt inspired to do that is because they actually did do the fucking thing. They actually did win the fucking World Series in this hypothetical season. Now, granted, my team was like 140-20 for the year, 142-20, which is the best record of all time by quite a margin. They're just that good, obviously. It's better than when I was a kid and I would reset every time I lost a game. That way I would have an undefeated season. But it's still pretty close to undefeated in terms of baseball stuff. So I did that. I was very proud. So congrats to the fictional Atlanta Braves for also winning the World Series alongside their real-life counterparts. And that's what I've been up to. So you want to wrap it up?
We'll wrap it up. That's it. We did it.
Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/watch-review-repeat. You can get early access to all of our regular episodes, as well as timed exclusive access to some bonus episodes if we work on them. Or a special episode, which we'll have after I get married in just a few weeks. And go on a honeymoon. We won't record it until we're back from the honeymoon. I don't think Anna wants me to bring the recording equipment to the Bahamas. I don't think she'd like that very much. Our website is watchreviewrepeat.com. We're on Twitter at WRRpod. We're on Facebook. Just search for Watch Review Repeat. We are also on Instagram, Watch Review Repeat. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, then you can send those our way to watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. And I actually just remembered, we haven't had it happen in such a long time, but we did actually have a fucking entry to the Listener's Corner. So I think I should throw it out there quickly.
Okay, do it.
And then we'll properly wrap it up. Of course, I say that, and it says the message has not been downloaded from the server. So let me try restarting the app and see if I can get in this bad boy, and then we'll get this. This, of course, comes to us from Bruce Brown, the mostly the only contributor to the Listener's Corner. He doesn't have to be, but he chooses to be. All right, so here's him chiming in on some things, particularly things that we've watched mostly. Miss Marvel. I enjoyed it. It was far different than what I expected, but it was fun and moved along pretty well. It was nice to be introduced to a character I was not familiar with, and I thought the cameo with a certain character and in credits, I won't spoil it right now for those who haven't watched, was perfect to set up the future. You can probably guess who it is, or you've seen it on the internet, whatever. She-Hulk, episode 1 only, but I loved it. Thought it was fun, refreshing, entertaining, and moved along. Seems like it's kind of a dumb character, but it actually worked really well. I have heard of She-Hulk, but never read any of the comics, so not really sure where it goes. For example, is it Daredevil, lawyer by day, superhero by night, etc.? Well, keep watching, and you'll get a little bit more of a taste of She-Hulk. Obi-Wan Kenobi, awesome. The scenes with Darth were amazing. I felt it sort of slowed at points, but picked right back up. I know one of you commented that the Inquisitors were kind of lame and just walked around and said stuff without doing much, but at times I felt like Darth was all-powerful ass-kicker, kicked Obi-Wan's ass effortlessly and lit him on fire, and then all of a sudden, Darth couldn't finish the job for whatever reason, which is kind of true. He like buries him under all those fucking rocks, and it's just like, all right, I guess I'm good. Peace. I know we had to keep Obi-Wan alive, but Darth was so powerful it seemed like, there was a wall of flame dividing them, so Darth can't kick his ass anymore until next time. Yeah, kind of. A little bit of plot armor there. The Boys. Pure gold. Loved every bit of it. Probably the best show on right now. I really need to get on that. I really need to fucking watch The Boys. Purple Hearts. See, I think he got this wrong. He says, oh my gosh, I just loved it so much. Nah, I'm kidding. Only Colton watches that crap. You were the one that watched that, not me. Andrew watched that film, not me. I just want to put that on the record. The Gray Man. Entertaining enough. Ryan Gosling, total badass, tougher than nails, kick everyone's ass, super trained soldier. No, sorry, not really buying it. He was the guy in La La Land. Doesn't convey. It was fine for what it was. I don't need to see another one. And then finally, Flight. Yep, it's older, but it's Denzel, and he is phenomenal in this movie. If anyone hasn't watched it, you need to. Listener's Corner from Bruce Brown. Oh, and he says they all look great on the new 85-inch TV. Ooh. Very nice. Very nice. So, you want us to read out your thoughts on air and maybe chime in with a comment or two? WatchReviewRepeat@gmail.com. I'm telling you. Do it. All right, finishing up. Intro and outro track, Mechanical by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Next episode, I do not know. To be determined is what I will say. I got a lot of things to watch. I think Andrew's probably got material enough to cover things, but I'm behind the curve. I haven't watched any movies lately, and I don't know where we go, so I don't want to plan it out and commit to anything just yet, but rest assured we'll be back with something.
We'll be back.
So, why don't you take us out?
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Later's on the Menjay.